Chapter 23:49. I never promised not to kill you. Ha! Ha! Who would have thought that not only would these people not be startled, but they would instead laugh? The old man shook his head. You are too naive, because the one who wants to kill you is Xiaofan. If you stay by his side then you won't die. But if you leave him then you will die. This is because you know too many things. Moreover, you have cultivation methods from the 8-divinity heavenly palace that Xiaofan has asked us to take back for him. Ha! Xiaofan wants to kill us? Ha! Hearing this, Little Peach and the others couldn't believe their ears. They had come from 10,000 worlds with Xiaofan. They had shared joys and sorrows together, weathering trials and tribulations together. But after Xiaofan soared into the heavens, they had been abandoned. Some people can only share trials and tribulations, not riches and honor. Now that Xiaofan is about to rise, he will inevitably enter the 3 great academies of Blue Province. You know too many of his secrets, so how could he possibly allow you to live? Ha! The old man slowly walked forwards, speaking as he did so. Dang dang dang. Seeing this, Little Peach and the others retreated, their faces pale. Although they believed the old man's words, the truth was still a heavy blow to them. This was because as long as they were alive, they wouldn't be able to threaten Xiaofan. But, Xiaofan still wanted to eliminate them by the roots. This was completely different from the kind and gentle man in their memories. You are only pitiful guides. If you die here, no one will care, and no one will help you. Ha! The old man's complexion became even colder. Killing Little Peach and the others was no different from stepping on weeds on the side of the road. The 2 people beside him also sneered. They clenched their fists and released them, killing intent gushing out from them. However, just as they were about to attack, a calm voice sounded out. I can help them. As this voice sounded out, the entire Green Mountain seemed to fall silent. Everyone turned to see a youth in blue and white robes slowly walking down the ancient rocky mountain path. He had an ancient sword and long hair. It was a startling sight. Little Peach and the others stared at this figure, not believing their own eyes. It was him. Sir, this is a matter of our 9-dragon city. You shouldn't interfere. The old man frowned. He could feel that this newcomer's strength was at the 2nd level of the World King realm, a higher boundary than himself. Of course, he had 3 people on his side, so he wasn't too worried. What if I insist on interfering? However, the young man's voice also turned cold, carrying a sharp killing intent. That would mean offending our 9-dragon city. Moreover, these people are only slaves. Why would your excellency provoke us for a few slaves? Most importantly, the person who wants to kill these slaves is called Xiaofan. The old man's eyes flickered as he spoke. According to what you said, you should want to kill me more. Because compared to them, Xiaofan wants to kill me more. The corners of the young man's mouth curled into a sneer, and he finally stopped. His words caused the elder's expression to change slightly. Who was this person? Why did Xiaofan want to kill him the most? I don't want to know what you're talking about, but if you provoke us, you won't have a good time either. Soon, the old man shook his head. At the same time, he secretly told the 2 people next to him to look at his eyes and prepare to attack. He didn't know who the intruder was, but the intruder had obviously disrupted what he wanted to do. However, how could he hide his intentions from the young man? The young man shook his head. He took a step forward and shot forward. He made his move. Boom! It was just a movement, but the entire mountain shook as if the power of a world had exploded. So fast. The elder's expression changed drastically. He didn't even notice the power of the world essence, but the young man had already appeared in front of him. At the same time, a large hand grabbed at him as if it was covering the sky. Bang! The terrifying thing was that the hand could actually break through the power of the world essence and smoothly grab the elder's neck. This unforeseen event caused the other two to be stunned. "I wonder what the good fruit you're talking about is," the young man said indifferently as he lifted the elder with one hand. Senior Jianbingyi was subdued in one move. The other two trembled because they could see that the gap between them and the young man was huge, extremely huge. Even if the three of them joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for the young man. Who are you?" the elder said with a terrified expression. He knew that he had encountered an extremely terrifying expert. "I'm the person Shi Wenbo wants to kill the most. My name is Lin Ling." The young man's gaze met the elder's and said indifferently, causing the elder's heart to rumble. He naturally knew about Shi Wenbo's background. He heard that Shi Wenbo used to be a slave, but after he betrayed someone, he soared into the sky, and that person was Lin Ling. However, Shi Wenbo didn't allow anyone to mention this shameful past. If anyone dared to mention it, they would be fined that day and die the next day without knowing why. Therefore, not many people knew about this, and the elder was one of them. Now, the fierce guy in front of him was Lin Ling? Wasn't this guy dead? The elder opened his mouth and wanted to say something. Bang! Lin Ling crushed his neck directly, then threw the corpse in his hand and looked at the remaining two. "Where is Shi Wenbo?" His voice was calm, but it was as cold as the 9 hells. The two middle-aged men were so scared that they almost knelt on the ground. They didn't dare to look at Lin Ling at all. "Die!" Lin Ling shouted in a low voice. It was like the king of hell's soul summoning order. Bang! One of the middle-aged men instantly died, suppressed to death by Lin Ling's massive soul force. To Little Peach and the others, these people were existences that they could only look up to. But to Lin Ling, they weren't even worth mentioning. He is in 9 Dragon City. He is about to become the son-in-law of the city lord. Moreover, Lord Shi Wenbo wants to borrow the name of 9 Dragon City to enter the 3 great academies of Blue Province. The other man fell to his knees, constantly begging for mercy. This youth's methods were simple and direct. Even if he didn't want to speak, he had to. "What is your city lord's strength and what powerhouses are nearby?" Lin Ling asked without expression. "Our city lord is at the 3rd stage of the World King realm and there are no powerhouses nearby. But, I heard that Shi Wenbo is someone from the 2 great heavens of Blue Province, thus our city lord tried to recruit him." The man didn't dare to look at Lin Ling. He never thought that just a moment ago he could decide the fate of Little Peach and the others, but in the next moment his fate would be decided by someone else. The matters of life were truly filled with twists and turns. Destiny was the most mysterious of all. Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded. As he had guessed, after Shi Wenbo revealed his formidable talent, many powerhouses began to try to recruit him. However, in Lin Ling's heart, Shi Wenbo had just risen and now he was about to fall. "Go die." Lin Ling nodded. Then, he punched out, smashing that man to pieces. "I've already told you why you want to kill me." The man cried out before he died, as if he hadn't died in peace. "I didn't agree to not kill you," Lin Ling said without looking at him. These people wanted to kill Little Peach and the others, thus they were Lin Ling's enemies. Then, Lin Ling turned and looked at Little Peach and the others. "Big brother Lin Ling." Chapter 2350. 100 Worlds Martial Competition, it's good that you're all fine. Lin Ling looked at them, his expression not as cold as before. "Big brother Lin Ling, Shi Wenbo wants to kill us. He's too vicious." One of them said angrily, his heart filled with unwillingness. He's still in the mood to decide other people's lives? He's really free." Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. He hated ungrateful people the most. Therefore, he must kill Shi Wenba today. Go to 9 Dragon City to kill Shi Wenba. The corners of his mouth twitched as he coldly spat out these words, causing Little Peach and the others to tremble subconsciously. Then, they were filled with anticipation. They wanted to know how Shi Wenba would react when he saw Lin Ling again. 9 Dragon City was not far from here. It wasn't a big city, but it was still bustling with people and bustling with noise. Many cultivators who had just arrived in the martial god realm chose 9 Dragon City as their first choice. Because there weren't many experts here, it was the best place for them to train for the first time. Today, 9 Dragon City was extremely lively because the city lord had set up the 100 Worlds martial competition to make friends with the experts of the myriad worlds. The 100 Worlds martial competition, to put it bluntly, is the city lord Su Jiulong trying to tell everyone that he has found the best son-in-law? It's Shi Wenba, right? This guy is really powerful. I heard that he came from the myriad worlds, but he relied on his own perseverance and sweat to finally gain a foothold in the martial god realm. I heard that many great powers have extended an olive branch to him. Yeah, City Lord Su Jiulong doesn't have a chance to enter the 3 great academies of the Azure Province. Therefore, he hopes that Shi Wenba can represent 9 Dragon City and enter the academy. The city lord has a good plan. However, Shi Wenba won't lose out. At least he's married to a beautiful woman. I'm envious. In the streets and alleys, voices drifted out everywhere. As for the geniuses from the myriad worlds, they were envious. They hoped that one day they could be like Shi Wenba and gain a foothold in the martial god realm and enjoy worship. This Shi Wenba is really hypocritical. If it weren't for big brother Lin Ling, how could he be where he is today? He actually attributed everything to his perseverance and sweat. How ugly. At this moment, Lin Ling and the others had arrived at the city's massive gate. Hearing the various voices in the city, Little Peach could not help but mock. Hee, the higher you fly, the more painful it is to fall. Lin Ling stared into the distance, his eyes filled with coldness. Shi Wenba knew how to conduct himself. This was something that Lin Ling had already experienced. However, Shi Wenba was an ingrate. If he was weak, he would flatter him. If he was strong, those who had helped him would be bullied and even killed. Now that Shi Wenba has gained a firm foothold in the martial god realm, as his old friend, we have to support him no matter what. Following which, a sinister smile appeared on Lin Ling's face, causing Little Peach and the others to grow curious. Follow me. Lin Ling suddenly remembered that when he went to kill an enemy in the past, he had prepared a coffin as a gift. Now that Shi Wenba was about to spread his wings and soar, how could Lin Ling not give him a gift? At this moment, in the 9 Dragon City, a large number of people had gathered, and in the center was a golden martial arts stage. That's right, it was a golden martial arts stage. Today was the day that the city lord, Su Jiulong, was looking for a son-in-law, so how could he embarrass himself? Congratulations, congratulations. Many seniors who knew Su Jiulong came and congratulated him. They knew that Su Jiulong had found a son-in-law. It was said that this son-in-law's talent was quite good, causing an outer court elder from the 3 great academies of Qingzhou to come. If this son-in-law entered the 3 great academies, then Su Jiulong's status would rise as well. Therefore, these experts also knew that today's 100 Dynasties martial competition was fake. The real purpose was to move that mysterious elder when Shi Wenba displayed his strength. Hee, it's my honor to have all of you here. At this moment, Su Jiulong cupped his hands and said to the crowd. Someone laughed and asked, may I know who City Lord Su's son-in-law is? With that said, many experts became curious. Su Jiulong smiled proudly and pointed to the other side. There was a thin and weak man sitting there. His eyes were slightly closed, and he didn't move or hear anything around him. He looked young, but he had his own arrogant demeanor. He is indeed a dragon among men. Those experts secretly said. They could sense that this young man wasn't simple. So handsome. Wow. As for Su Jiulong's daughter, she was also looking at that man with adoration. She had always thought that her husband was an outstanding talent who could command the wind and clouds, so she had been waiting. Now, she had finally waited. She was very satisfied with that thin and weak young man. Is that Shi Wenba? He is simply the representative of the younger generation. I heard that his talent was very ordinary at the beginning, but he relied on his perseverance and fighting spirit to gradually make a name for himself. Yes. Yes, if only I could be as good as he is. Wow. Around the golden martial arts stage, the geniuses from various worlds also let out sounds of adoration, and some even shouted. Shi Wenba, Shi Wenba. These voices grew louder and louder like waves, causing the entire city to be excited. At this moment, the person who was sitting on the chair and enjoying the gazes of thousands of people was Shi Wenba. Although he was valued by Luo Xia and the others, he obviously didn't want to be inferior to others, so he appeared here. In fact, he was a little excited because he was a slave in the past and had never enjoyed such treatment. And he liked this treatment very much, even indulging in it. Every man for himself. Sure enough, if you want to obtain something, you have to be a man and make a decision when necessary. Su Jiulong, I heard that you have a genius here, right? At this moment, an old man in a gorgeous robe appeared. He had the demeanor of an expert. His hands were behind his back, and the chest of his robe was embroidered with 4 large words, Heavenly Saint Academy. The crowd was in an uproar. They were people from the 3 great academies of Qing province. To them, these highly respected people were people they had to look up to, and they would always look up to. He, Lord Lan, I finally invited you here. Su Jiulong was overjoyed when he saw the old man and hurriedly bowed. Although the old man's strength was the same as his, the old man's status was much higher than his. No need to be so courteous, I'm here to see Shi Wenba. The old man smiled and waved his hand. Almost at the same time, Shi Wenba opened his eyes with a wisp of joy. The elder of Heavenly Saint Academy had actually come personally to test him. If the old man was satisfied, perhaps he, Shi Wenba, would be able to obtain a spot to participate in the Academy's assessment. Although a spot didn't mean that he would definitely become a member of the 3 great academies, it was enough. After all, precious spots weren't something that anyone could obtain. In fact, the old man had been invited by Su Jiulong, which was also the reason why Shi Wenba had married Su Jiulong's daughter. Greetings, senior. Shi Wenba was neither haughty nor humble as he bowed indifferently. Not bad, a very good unpolished jade. If you're polished, you'll definitely become something great. The old man smiled and seemed to be satisfied. Chapter 2351. Shi Wenba, how was the battle? Good, I await your good news. The old man quickly sat down. Seeing this, Shi Wenba became even more excited. He leaped up and landed on the dazzling golden martial platform. With one hand behind his back, he extended his other hand and made an inviting gesture to everyone. I am Shi Wenba. I am untalented, but I would like to experience the strength of the geniuses of all worlds, even the geniuses of martial god world. His voice floated out, bold and confident. All around the golden martial stage, there was an uproar. It had to be said that at this moment, Shi Wenba was extremely confident. This caused the light around him to be extremely dazzling. Shi Wenba, I am untalented, but I would like to ask for guidance. Soon, a powerful genius leapt onto the golden martial stage. First level World King Realm? Not bad, to have such a boundary at such an age, not bad at all. Shi Wenba faintly smiled, looking at this youth as if he were a senior apprentice brother. I thank Shi Wenba for the praise, but I will not hold back. The youth across from him seemed a bit excited because he had actually obtained Shi Wenbao's praise. I hope so. Make your move. Shi Wenbao faintly nodded. A calm aura spread out from him. His cultivation had actually reached the first level of the World King realm. Compared to when he was at 8 God Heavenly Palace, his strength had risen by a great deal. This meant that his fortuitous encounters were extremely good. Excuse me. The youth attacked. His right hand drew a circle and then slammed out. Clang. The sound of metal colliding echoed out. The circle formed by world essence shot out countless arrows of light. If these arrows fell into the myriad worlds, they would be able to pierce through them. Not bad, but your speed is a bit slow. If you cultivate diligently, your strength can still increase. Looking at the dazzling arrows of light, Shi Wenbao lightly nodded. Without any movement, his body swam out like a fish and he gently slammed out his palm. Pang! The youth was quickly defeated, but he wasn't injured. He said in adoration, "Admirable, I couldn't see through your attack at all." On the road of martial arts, increasing one's boundary doesn't mean they are strong. Their martial arts comprehension also increases. Your martial arts comprehension is still a bit weak. Shi Wenbao said, his expression neither happy nor sad. I am sincerely convinced. The youth left the martial stage. As expected, cheers immediately erupted from all around. Even Lord Lan nodded his head in praise. All of this made Shi Wenbao even happier. He wanted to better display himself. Next. He spoke again. Soon, some people leapt onto the golden martial platform. They were all first-level World King realm geniuses from various worlds. These geniuses had clearly cultivated in martial god world for a long time and their cultivation wasn't low. Bang bang bang. But what was the use? With his powerful talent, Shi Wenbao was able to cut through mountains and fill seas. Defeat. That person lost again, but he wasn't injured. This showed just how terrifying Shi Wenbao's martial arts realm was. Actually, the reason he was able to attain such a high level of attainment in the martial Dao was because of the cultivation techniques within the Tu Shi Tower. On the path of martial arts, you have to take one step at a time. You're too impatient, causing your foundation to be unstable. You should learn from me and cultivate steadily and solidly. As long as you're patient, sooner or later, you'll be able to accumulate enough strength to make a breakthrough. After defeating his opponent, Shi Wenbao instructed again. As a result, he won beautifully. After all, it wasn't rare to defeat an opponent, but to be able to defeat an opponent without injuring them, and even convince them wholeheartedly at the same time, that was very difficult to accomplish. Bang bang bang. His opponents went on stage one after another, but all of them were defeated. Towards the end, Shi Wenbao even challenged a second-level World King realm genius. Moreover, as the battle continued, he began to challenge old monsters. Although treasures are important, they cannot be the only thing that matters. Individual strength is the most important. My cultivation was obtained through hard work and there are no shortcuts to speak of. Thus, I hope that I can give you some help. Don't think of taking the unorthodox path or stealing the treasures of others to increase your strength. That's useless. Perseverance and diligence are the foundation of a martial artist. Every time Shi Wenbao defeated an opponent, he would instruct them. This caused the people around the golden martial stage to worship him even more. As for Mr. Lan, he stroked his beard and nodded. Not only was this Shi Wenbao's talent good, but his heart of martial arts was also extremely firm. It seemed that his cultivation had been obtained by taking one step at a time. Shameless. However, at this time, an untimely voice suddenly sounded out. Shi Wenbao, can you be any more shameless? You said that the road of martial arts is one step at a time. May I ask if your cultivation was cultivated step by step? In the crowd, a young girl angrily shouted out. She couldn't bear it any longer. She was none other than Little Peach. Xi Wenbo looked below the martial stage and was slightly surprised. However, he quickly calmed down and said indifferently, "So it's you. I know you like me and you must have me. Unfortunately, love can't be forced. As for my cultivation, it was definitely obtained through hard work and hard work. Do you think there are shortcuts to the road of martial arts?" His voice was interrogative, causing Little Peach's face to turn red with anger. She didn't think that Xi Wenbo's shamelessness would surpass her imagination. This was because Xi Wenbo's time fire was something that he had to kneel down and beg Lin Ling to obtain. But now, it was said that he had obtained it through hard work and hard work. Moreover, when Xi Wenbo said those words, he actually had an expression as if they were a matter of course. She really didn't know if he had any sense of shame at all. Who do you think you are? You like Xi Wenbo and he rejects you, so you want to smear his name? Xi Wenbo's strength is clearly obtained through hard work and hard work. Do you think that a martial artist who relies on luck to increase their strength would have such deep martial arts comprehensions? Bitch! Those who didn't know the situation shouted angrily, especially the opponents who had been defeated by Xi Wenbo. They were the loudest at this moment. Xi Wenbo, you! Little Peach was at a loss for words. She was so angry that her body was trembling. Xi Wenbo looked at her indifferently. There was a cold light in the depths of his eyes. This former good friend of his had actually ruined his plans. It seemed that he had been too merciful. Such an enemy should have been obliterated. Fortunately, no one believed her at all. Little Peach, leave. It will never be possible between you and me. Xi Wenbo said as he shook his head. Xi Wenbo is still the righteous one. If it were me, I would have already taught that girl a lesson. She simply doesn't know what's good for her. The crowd spoke up for Xi Wenbo and worshipped him even more. As for Little Peach and the people around her, they were all like rats crossing the street, mocked by the crowd with disdain. Subconsciously, they looked at a man beside them. This man was wearing a black robe and a mask on his face. His eyes were mercilessly staring at the golden martial stage. Big Brother Lin Ling. Little Peach and the others whispered, feeling extremely wronged. Ho ho, the higher you fly, the more painful it is to fall. Before, I let him shine so brightly because I wanted him to fall more painfully. Now, it's time for us to collect the interest. The masked man faintly smiled. He was Lin Ling. Lin Ling hadn't exposed his identity because if he did, it wouldn't be fun. Xi Wenbo, how about this battle? Lin Ling finally spoke. As these words fell, the golden martial stage fell silent. Even now, there was still someone who dared to challenge Xi Wenbo. This person was simply overestimating himself. Xi Wenbo's strength was already enough to fight a second-stage world king. Which ordinary person could be his match? Xi Wenbo's eyes flashed. The masked man gave him a familiar feeling, but he was sure that he didn't know who he was. He didn't think too much about it. After defeating that youth, Lord Lan would probably give him a spot. As you wish. Xi Wenbo shrugged his shoulders. Xiao. At almost the same time, a black shadow shot out and crashed into the golden martial stage. As everyone looked over, their complexions changed. Chapter 2352. The loser enters the coffin. Pa! At this moment, the sound of footsteps echoed out. Lin Ling walked towards the golden martial stage at a steady pace. At the same time, his deep voice floated out. Loser, how about you enter the coffin? Go! As his voice fell, the entire city fell silent. Enter the coffin? Xi Wenbo frowned. Today was his most dazzling moment. As long as he waited a little longer, he would be able to obtain a spot into the 3 great academies. However, this person actually wanted to give him a coffin. Was this person trying to humiliate him in front of Lord Lan? You're courting death. Anger. Soon, angry shouts came from all around. Even Su Jiulong's eyes flashed with a cold light. Today was the 100 Realms martial meeting, but the truth was that the martial stage belonged to his son-in-law. Yet, this person dared to cause trouble. This was the same as ruining his reputation. You don't know what's good for you. At this time, a black figure appeared on the martial stage like a bolt of lightning. This was an old man with long silver hair. He wore brown robes and 3 banners were placed on his back. A cold wind blew around him. The king of the Een water world. The people below shouted out. This person was the ruler of a world. Although this old man's hometown was the same as Lin Ling's hometown and wasn't considered too strong to be able to become the ruler of a world, there was no need to doubt his strength. You're wearing a mask and sneaking around. You don't look like a good person. Today is the day of the 100 Realms exchange, so why have you come here to cause trouble? The old man pointed at Lin Ling and reprimanded him, as if Lin Ling were his disciple. In truth, his plan was well thought out. After all, powerhouses were as common as clouds in the martial god world. If one had a backer, they could walk far. Now, Shi Wenbo had a chance to enter the 3 great academies and was even being recruited by 2 great commanderies. Thus, if he helped, he could obtain Shi Wenbo's favor. I came to the martial stage to fight, so why have you come here to cause trouble? Lin Ling looked at the old man. The old man was at the 1st level of the World King realm, but a world had been born within him. In addition, the banner behind him was a treasure. No wonder he was so confident. A treasure could increase one's world essence. Some could increase it by 10%, some by 20%, and once it reached 100%, it was the power of a world. At the 1st level of the World King realm, one had the strength of a world. If one added on a good weapon and their world essence increased by 10%, their strength would naturally be even greater. Shameless boasting. This old man sees that you are young, so I'm only giving you some advice. Don't be too arrogant, otherwise. The old man was enraged. Although Lin Ling was a 2nd-level world king, he still had confidence in himself. After all, Lin Ling's Dantian hadn't given birth to the power of 2 worlds, so what did Lin Ling have to fear? Otherwise what? Lin Ling asked. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. The old man's voice became cold as he looked at Su Jiulong. He was secretly satisfied. City Lord Su Jiulong should owe him a favor. Then let me remind you that you must know your place. The matters of others have nothing to do with you. Otherwise, don't blame me for causing misery and suffering. Lin Ling smiled. His smile was extremely cold. He didn't waste any more words. He took a step forward and shot toward the old man. You are courting death. The old man didn't think that Lin Ling would dare to take the initiative to attack. No matter how it was said, he was still the master of a world. Shi Wenbo stood where he was, unmoving. He was curious about this youth's strength. Point ceiling heavy soul banner. The old man roared, erupting with his full strength. The 3 banners behind him fluttered out, forming countless strands of the power of world essence. The entire golden martial stage was covered by him. In his opinion, this arrogant youth wouldn't be able to move even a single step. It's actually the power of worlds. Lin Ling still rushed forwards, his eyes filled with disdain. This banner was forged from the power of a world. It had to be known that there were connections between the myriad worlds, just like the threads of a broken lotus root. These threads were this power. Chi Chi Chi. An invisible strength bound Lin Ling, wanting to stop Lin Ling's advance. Suddenly, Lin Ling's movements paused, like a moth trapped in a spider's web. Seeing this, the old man smiled. He already knew that Lin Ling was a young man. Although his boundary was good, his martial arts experience was still lacking. Thus, the old man decided to attack. "You're smiling too early." However, just as his smile appeared, a cold and indifferent voice floated into his ears. Pang pang pang. The invisible threads that bound Lin Ling instantly broke apart. How is this possible? The old man's pupils widened. His point-sealing heavy soul banner specifically sealed away a martial artist's acupoints. He had captured countless second-level World King powerhouses, but now, this youth hadn't erupted with the power of World Essence but had still managed to break free from his threads of World Essence. How could he know just how formidable Lin Ling's mortal body was? His strength had reached over 5,000. Moreover, Lin Ling's acupoints were like molten iron. How could they be easily sealed away? Pang! As the old man was surprised, Lin Ling's fist arrived. Lin Ling had put away his sword, but his fist was his sword, crushing everything in its path. Ka ka ka. With a single punch, it was as if he could dominate the world. The three banners instantly broke apart. I don't care about this anymore. The old man finally realized just how terrifying Lin Ling was. He began to retreat. You don't care, but I want to care about you. Lin Ling's momentum was unstoppable. His fist punched out, seeming as if it carried the world with it as it crashed into the old man. You want to ignore me with just a few words? If today's Lin Ling was weaker than this old man and Lin Ling said he didn't care, would this old man let him go? This was clearly impossible. Am I going to die here? The old man's pupils gradually widened. He looked towards the distant Su Jiolong, hoping that Su Jiolong would help him. However, he was disappointed. In the distance, Su Jiolong wasn't even looking at him. Instead, he was staring at Lin Ling. It was clear that he wanted the city lord to owe him a favor. But, if he failed, he would die here forever. Boom! After killing the old man with a single punch, Lin Ling calmly stood there. That black robe caused the entire city to fall silent. So powerful! Many people secretly exclaimed. Because the entire process was too direct and efficient. As for Shi Wenba, he narrowed his eyes. Through the previous battle, he seemed to have seen through the demon-masked youth's strength. This youth probably didn't have the power of 2 worlds and was drawing on the power of 10,000 worlds. Otherwise, when facing the old man's attack, he would have already erupted with all his world essence. And such strength, Shi Wenba wasn't afraid. Little friend, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't be too arrogant. Shi Wenba spoke. His tone was calm, as if he was giving advice to Lin Ling like a senior. Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed. The more he looked at Shi Wenba, the more disgusted he felt. This fellow had always been pretending, deceiving others. The current me can't be considered very arrogant, right? It's just so. Lin Ling directly retorted. His words caused many people to suck in a breath of cold air. They all felt that Lin Ling was too arrogant, but who would have known that Lin Ling felt that the previous arrogance was just so. In that case, if Lin Ling was truly arrogant, what kind of cultivation realm would that be? What arrogance! A moment later, angry shouts rang out one after another. It was because Shi Wenba was deeply righteous. He wouldn't be angered even if others provoked him, but that demon-masked youth was too arrogant. He delivered a coffin and casually killed people. He was simply from hell. However, Lin Ling acted as if he didn't hear anything. He indifferently said, Shi Wenba, if you want to be favored by Lord Lan, you have to display even greater strength. So, it seems like you have no choice but to refuse. Yes. Chapter 2353. Give you a 10-move handicap. Shi Wenba's complexion was ugly, but he still laughed. Huh, it seems that you don't like me at all. But, as you wish. Shi Wenba, had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He absolutely couldn't miss this chance. Of course, the most important thing was that he had absolute confidence in himself. You fought so many battles, so I'll give you a 10-move handicap. Lin Ling knew that Shi Wenba didn't fear this battle. Moreover, he could see that Shi Wenba's cultivation had reached the first level of the World King realm, and he had cultivated the Buddha lamp burning art left behind by Tu Shi Tower. This was a fire attribute cultivation method that was very suitable for him and also had the effect of rapidly increasing his cultivation. However, the later stages this cultivation method was, the more difficult it would be and the weaker it would be. It was because of this that Lin Ling disdained this cultivation method when he was in Tu Shi Tower. Give me a 10-move handicap? Unsurprisingly, Lin Ling's words made Shi Wenba a little stunned. Of course, the crowd was also the same. After all, Shi Wenba had defeated many second-level World King realm martial artists before, so they didn't know where Lin Ling's confidence came from. Didn't you see the previous battles? Shi Wenba shook his head. I did. You're only a so-so. Lin Ling smiled as he replied. Then I'll do as you wish. Shi Wenba sighed, as if he regretted Lin Ling's frivolous attitude. But far away from the golden martial platform, Lord Lan frowned. He knew that Shi Wenba could fight a second-level World King, but that didn't mean he was invincible in this realm. First, the powerhouses that Shi Wenba fought before didn't have high talent. They only had a first-grade mystic body. Second, if they cultivated a middle-grade second-grade martial art, Shi Wenba wouldn't have been able to win. However, that youth's talent didn't seem too high. As for his martial arts comprehension, he was definitely inferior to Shi Wenba. Thus, he didn't know how that youth would fight. Give him a 10-move handicap? What a joke. It was Shi Wenba who gave him a handicap. Is he an idiot? Does he think he can suppress Shi Wenba just because his boundary is high? He will know that those who can enter the 3 great academies of Azure Province aren't pushovers. Many people sneered, wanting to see Lin Ling in a sorry state. Shi Wenba stared at Lin Ling indifferently as if he wanted to see through Lin Ling. However, he couldn't see through anything. In the end, he was sure that he didn't know the other party. Sorry for the offense. He said this hypocritically, but he had already displayed his martial arts. A dazzling golden light appeared on the golden martial stage. 18 Buddha palms. It was a low second-grade origin boundary martial art. According to legend, this set of martial arts was comprehended by a Buddhist martial artist after 10,000 years in the myriad worlds. As for its origin, Shi Wenba had obtained it from the Tu Shi Tower. Because he had the assistance of the flames of time, this allowed him to gain an initial understanding of the might of this martial art. A terrifying thing happened. 18 ancient Buddhas appeared on the golden martial platform, as if they were the masters of a realm. 18 palms fiercely struck out. Amazing! Looking at this magnificent scene, many people held their breaths. Bang bang bang. In the next moment, the Buddha's palms suppressed the world. On the martial stage, Lin Ling's body was like a candle in the wind, engulfed by the energy storm. He lost. Seeing this, Lord Lan immediately shook his head. Although there was a gap between the two of them, martial arts could make up for everything. As for Shi Wenba, he smiled, an extremely confident smile. First move. However, in the midst of the tumbling waves, Lin Ling's voice floated out, causing the surroundings of the martial stage to instantly fall silent. They saw that in the storm formed by the origin boundary, the ghost-masked youth was still standing there. He seemed to be in a sorry state, but at least he had not lost. You shouldn't have let me use my first move. Second move. Second move. Shi Wenba's eyes flickered. He did not get angry and pointed out a finger. Weeping golden finger. This finger could condense the power of a realm in the Dantian and attack the enemy, breaking through a realm. In his opinion, with the first move, the other party was already in such a sorry state. The next move was bound to be defeated. I know you want to defeat me and then replace me to enter the 3 great academies of Qingzhou. However, on the path of martial arts, one has to have a steady state of mind. After the finger, Shi Wenba said indifferently, as if he was a senior who had comprehended martial arts for many years. Clang! At the same time, the sound of metal colliding rang out. Many people saw that the ghost-masked youth was pushed back by the finger attack. This time, he was defeated. This thought arose in the hearts of the crowd. Hehe, your mouth is quite powerful. However, the path of martial arts does not rely on your mouth. However, Lin Ling's voice still floated out. In the smoke, his figure was still faintly discernible. He had not lost yet. At this moment, Shi Wenba's pupils constricted. Humiliation, this was a huge humiliation. After all, his opponent only blocked and did not attack. If he still could not win, then he would be too ashamed to face others today. You should have reached your limit. You will definitely lose in the third move. Shi Wenba's voice was a little angry. Perhaps. Lin Ling did not comment. Third move. Shi Wenba knew that he could not lose face anymore. He had to defeat his opponent and seize the glory. Combat Demon Explosion. There was an explosive sound, and the void around Shi Wenba's body continued to explode. This was a move that combined defense and attack. Seeing this scene, many people clenched their fists. It had to be said that Shi Wenba knew a lot of martial arts. Following that, Shi Wenba also began to fight in close combat. His expression was calm but every move was fatal. Lin Ling had a sneer on his face. In fact, if he wanted to defeat Shi Wenba, one move would be enough. However, he did not. He was slowly trampling on Shi Wenba's dignity. As for the combat demon explosion, Lin Ling was more familiar with this move than Shi Wenba. He easily broke it. Fourth move. Fifth move. As time passed, the surroundings of the gold martial platform began to go into an uproar. Because every time the mysterious youth looked like he was about to lose, he would not lose. And Shi Wenba, who was the focus of their attention, had failed time and time again. This scene was completely different from what they had imagined. How could this be? At this moment, Shi Wenba was furious. He felt that the ghost-masked youth's defense was too strong, breaking his moves every time. Most importantly, he sensed that the surrounding people were looking at him with ridicule. Previously, he was so proud that he was worshipped by tens of thousands of people. Now, he was unable to defeat him after a long battle. This was a huge insult. Eighth move, lose for me. You're thinking too well. The distance to the 10th move was getting closer and closer. Shi Wenba became increasingly anxious. If he failed, then Lord Lan would definitely be disappointed. It would be difficult for him to spread his wings and soar high today. Who was this ghost-masked youth? How hateful. Earth explosion, heaven shaking. For the 10th move, Shi Wenba used Lin Ling's martial arts. That martial art was taught to him by Lin Ling when the two of them were traveling in the desert. However, at that time, Shi Wenba's realm was not high and he could not cultivate it. But now, he had succeeded in the initial stage. He believed that this move would definitely be able to kill the ghost-masked youth without anyone noticing. At this moment, the martial platform seemed to have quieted down. A demonic aura filled the air, making it unknown when a fatal attack would erupt. Powerful. Lord Lan suddenly stood up and clapped his hands. He could see that Shi Wenbo had suppressed his realm essence underground and was using it to attack the ghost-masked youth. And this move was very difficult to defend against. Unless one was a World King realm genius, they would all die with hatred. Chapter 2354. Killing Shi Wenbo. At this time, Shi Wenbo had already floated backwards. His hands were held behind his back, his confidence restored. Moreover, he walked down the golden martial stage. "You've lost. What a pity, you didn't make me use my true trump card." These words floated out from his mouth, confident and calm. It was clear that he didn't think that the demon-masked youth would be able to block his move. After all, this move was terrifying. He had once seen Lin Ling easily kill a first-level World King realm powerhouse. But if he knew that this youth in front of him was the one who had taught him that move, then he would have absolutely lost all confidence in himself. Bang! At nearly the same time, a terrifying beam of essence light shot into the skies. This attack was unpredictable, able to kill any first-level World King realm martial artist. In order to kill the demon-masked youth, Shi Wenbo had even secretly activated a wisp of the space-time flame within. What kind of attack is this? As expected, after the crowd discovered that terrifying beam of light, they were all shocked. They simply hadn't sensed this attack before. This is a true genius. His eyebrows move slightly and he easily defeats his enemy. What an elegant demeanor. Many people spoke out in praise after being surprised. Their eyes turned, wanting to see the demon-masked youth's distressed appearance. But in the next moment, all of their jaws dropped. This was because the demon-masked youth was still standing there, like an immovable king. He hadn't been defeated. The 10th move had passed and the demon-masked youth was still standing there, like a demon. You're leaving like this?" At the same time, Lin Ling's voice floated out. It was clear that to use Lin Ling's earth-shattering heavens to attack Lin Ling was simply seeking death. To play with earth-shattering heavens, Lin Ling was everyone's ancestor. At this time, Shi Wenbo proudly walked down the martial stage. But just as he was about to step out, his footsteps came to a halt. His complexion was fierce. He was so angry that his body began to tremble. Before, just how glorious was he? Before his enemy was defeated, he had proudly left the martial stage. But now, the scene in front of him told him that this was nothing but mockery. "Your skin is really thick. I haven't been defeated and you want to leave? Do you really think you're invincible?" Lin Ling indifferently spat out a sentence. His words were like rubbing salt into a wound, causing Shi Wenbo's body to tremble even more violently. As for the crowd, they found it difficult to express the shock in their hearts with words. Some people looked at Shi Wenbo and almost wanted to laugh out loud. They also thought that Shi Wenbo was a disgrace. Even Lord Lan sat back down with a look of disappointment on his face. To Shi Wenbo, this expression was undoubtedly worse than killing him. He finally turned around with a ferocious look on his face. "You. Enough. I'm enough. I'll give you a handicap of 10 moves, and you can't even defeat me. I don't understand how you're qualified to enter the 3 great academies of Qing province." Lin Ling smiled and said in a cold voice, "Next, can we be considered to have a fair fight? If you think that you're at a disadvantage because my cultivation level is higher, then I'll give you another 10 moves." Boom! As soon as these words were spoken, it was as if a bomb had been thrown into the surroundings of the martial platform. How long was the ghost-masked youth going to humiliate Shi Wenbo? There's no need for that. Go all out and let me see what you're capable of. Shi Wenbo angrily roared. He could no longer suppress his anger. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. Good, this is too good. In the distance, Little Peach and the others excitedly smiled. The higher Shi Wenbo flew, the more painful it would be for him to fall. They wanted to see just how thick Shi Wenba's skin was. As you wish. Lin Ling nodded. But, let me remind you. Once I attack, it will be difficult for you to block me. Insolence. Shi Wenba roared out once more. Did this ghost-masked youth think he was trash? You'll find out soon enough. Lin Ling disdained to speak further. He directly closed in on Shi Wenba. You seem to know Buddhist martial arts. Then, do you know my martial arts, the myriad tribulation Arhat fist? Wang wang wang. His fist punched out. The sound of Buddhist scriptures floated outwards, divine and dignified. The strength of two worlds was suppressed above his fist, terrifying to the extreme. Although you are at the second level of the World King realm, if you aren't familiar with controlling your strength then you cannot win. Shi Wenba's eyes flashed with madness. His fists and palms danced, not retreating but advancing. Bang! Two fists collided. A deafening sound rang out. In the next moment, Shi Wenba was sent flying backwards. His face was filled with horror because he discovered that his opponent's world essence was extremely stable. It didn't seem like a martial artist who had just stepped into the second level of the World King realm. Your martial arts are barely acceptable, but your control over your world essence isn't concentrated enough. It's scattered too much. You need to bitterly cultivate it. Before Shi Wenba landed on the ground, Lin Ling chased after him. At the same time, his voice also floated out. He was actually giving pointers to Shi Wenba. Pang! He leapt up. His foot smashed down like an axe, smashing Shi Wenba into the golden martial platform. Rumble rumble rumble. The sound was deafening. Of course, what was even more shocking was that the ghost-masked youth was actually giving pointers to Shi Wenba. It had to be known that when Shi Wenba challenged the crowd of heroes, he was the one giving pointers. But now, he was the one being given pointers. This was undoubtedly a mockery. The ghost-masked youth was clearly slapping Shi Wenba's face. Moreover, he was slapping Shi Wenba's face. Boom! After a breath, on the golden martial platform, Shi Wenba leapt up from the ground. At this moment, his long hair was disheveled and his face was filled with killing intent. However, just as he leapt up, a figure appeared in front of him. Above the pitch-black ghost mask, a pair of cold eyes stared at him as if the king of hell was here to collect debts. This made Shi Wenba's heart tremble subconsciously. That pair of eyes was so cold. Most importantly, it gave him a familiar feeling. On the path of martial arts, you have to take one step at a time. You're too anxious, causing your foundation to be unstable. You should learn from me and cultivate steadily and solidly. As long as you're patient, sooner or later, you'll be able to accumulate enough strength. Lin Ling spat out a sentence. His right arm danced like a windmill. In the next moment, a dazzling punch was thrown out. With his current strength and the godly demon body, Shi Wenba was like a sandbag to him. Pang! Shi Wenba, who had just leapt up, was smashed into the ground again. Pang pang pang. Then, a dazzling battle appeared. Shi Wenba was completely abused. He was indeed like a sandbag. Although treasures are important, they can't be the only thing. Individual strength is the most important. My cultivation was obtained through hard work. There are no shortcuts, so I hope I can give you some help. Don't think about taking the unorthodox path or robbing other people's treasures to increase your strength. It's useless. Perseverance and diligence are the foundation of a martial artist. Most importantly, angry shouts could be heard from time to time. These words were said by Shi Wenba when he defeated his opponent. However, at this moment, they came from the ghost-masked youth's mouth. Pointers. Now, the ghost-masked youth was giving Shi Wenba even more pointers. Looking at the crazy battle that was like a thunderbolt, everyone around the martial platform was dumbfounded. Was this still the most dazzling Shi Wenbo today? Chapter 2355. The Progenitor of Fire, the Spacetime Fire. Sir Lan frowned, and the disappointment on his face deepened. Su Jiulong, you said that your son-in-law is a rare genius, and invited me to assess his strength. But what I see now is that he's being completely thrashed. Hearing this, Su Jiulong was speechless. As for Shi Wenbo, he was completely stunned. His mind was only filled with humiliation, a heavy humiliation. Previously, he flew very high like a comet. But now, he fell from the sky and the fall was very painful. The surrounding admiring gazes were probably only left with mockery. As for the person who attracted the most attention, it was undoubtedly the mysterious ghost-masked youth. At this moment, voices rang out quietly. Many people began to turn towards the ghost-masked youth. They were cheering for the ghost-masked youth. In the world of martial arts, strength always proved everything. You've gone too far. After an unknown period of time, Shi Wenbo finally erupted with a terrifying aura. Multicolored flames blossomed wildly at this moment. The spacetime fire. Crackle. On the golden martial stage, firecrackers sounded. The void was burning and an ancient flame aura filled the air. There were many fire attribute martial artists around the martial stage. At this moment, the flames in their dantian could not control themselves and broke out of their bodies. Those flames seemed to have met the progenitor of fire. The spacetime fire. Lord Lan stood up subconsciously. He heard from Su Jiulong that Shi Wenbo had a powerful talent. Therefore, he came because of his reputation. Today, he saw that it was indeed extraordinary. This flame has not yet grown, but it gives me an extraordinary feeling. If it fully matures, I'm afraid it can reach the talent of awakening the divine body. Lord Lan's voice was a little nervous. If he recommended Shi Wenbo to the academy, then he would have done a great service. Good. Beside him, Su Jiulong shouted excitedly. There was a light at the end of the tunnel. His son-in-law was in dire straits, but now he had finally turned the tables. He could not help but look at Lord Lan. Seeing the old man's face full of joy, he also smiled. Good son-in-law, your time has come. Let everyone see your strength. Su Jiulong picked up his wine cup and drank, waiting for the good news. What kind of flame is that? Could it be a fifth-rank Xian body? I'm afraid he has already reached the top level of the profound body. He is actually only one step away from awakening the divine body. Is this Shi Wenbo's talent? He has finally used his strongest trump card. The voices around the martial platform floated up like waves. Shi Wenbo indifferently stood there. His entire body was covered in flames, making him look like a god of fire. His cold eyes stared at Lin Ling. Did I surprise you? Sorry, I made you happy for nothing. Today's martial platform is mine, no one can snatch it from me. He walked forward step by step. His expression was calm, but the flames in his heart were burning. He was boiling. He thought back to the time when he was in the myriad realms, when he had just arrived at the martial god realm. He thought back to his downfall, and he thought back to the sacrifices he had made. Today, he wanted everyone to know that he, Shi Wenbo, had risen. Pa! He stretched out his right hand, and the multicolored flames danced. It was a ghastly sight. Boom! The entire golden martial platform started burning at this moment. Golden liquid. With one strike, I will defeat you. A fierce roar rang out. It was as if a shooting star had passed over the martial platform. Wherever it passed, the space was burned, and a dazzling tale was drawn out. Crackle. Time seemed to be burned, and all the energy of heaven and earth was suppressed in the flames. The fire of time and space was a flame that could burn space and time. Die. Shi Wenbao's eyes turned red. He roared, wanting to vent everything. Boom! But in his eyes, the ghost-masked youth did not move at all, as if he did not know how powerful his flames were. In Shi Wenbao's eyes, perhaps the youth had been scared silly. No matter how powerful your martial arts are, no matter how high your realm is, with a flame in my hand, no one can defeat me. He held the fire of time in his hand, and as if a taboo had been opened, he heavily slammed it on Lin Ling's chest. Boom! A deafening sound rang out. The power of the flame destroyed everything in its path. The entire golden martial platform shattered, and everything was burned. Crackle! The warriors who were closer to the martial platform were touched by a wisp of flame, and they were directly burned into nothingness. Any realm essence under the flame would be burned. The fire ancestor was so terrifying. What a terrifying talent. Moreover, that talent can still grow. Lord Lan could not help but stand up. His face was flushed red from excitement. As for Su Jiolong, who was beside him, he was calmly drinking wine, but it was obvious that his hand holding the wine cup was somewhat excited. Crackle! The flames were still burning, causing Nine Dragon City to be as hot as a volcano. As time passed, the crowd's eyes were glued to the center. At this moment, they wanted to see Shi Wenbao's power. In fact, Shi Wenbao was indeed emitting a dazzling light. His body was still burning with flames. He stretched out his hand, and his face was filled with joy. He almost roared at the sky. However, the next sentence caused him to fall from heaven to hell again. How pitiful. The last flame was only able to injure me a little. I really don't understand how a piece of trash like you is qualified to enter the 3 great academies. His voice drifted out like a gust of wind, causing the previously shocked crowd to widen their eyes. Crackle! At the center, the colorful flames seemed to recede, and then a slender figure appeared. It was the demon-masked youth. He was not dead. Bang! The wine cup in Su Jiolong's hand was subconsciously crushed by him. The wine flowed all over his hand, but he did not feel it. How could this be? He only had this one sentence in his mind. As for Lord Lan, who was beside him, his expression was extremely interesting. Previously, Shi Wenbao's shocking talent had surprised him, but now he realized that what really surprised him was the demon-masked youth. If Shi Wenbao had a spot in the 3 great academies, then it was deserved, but what about the youth? Who was stronger, who was weaker, it was clear at a glance now. Is this all you've got? You think you've dealt me a fatal blow? You think you've finally gained Lord Lan's approval after defeating me? You're proud, you've finally broken out of your cocoon and become a butterfly. However, don't you think you're too optimistic? Trash. Lin Ling stared at Shi Wenbao indifferently and softly spat out a sentence. Shi Wenbao stood there trembling, as if he could not believe what was happening before his eyes. You said that one must take one step at a time on the path of martial arts. However, ask yourself, if you've taken one step at a time, where did your powerful talent come from? Lin Ling took a step forward and gently slapped out his palm. Seeing this, Shi Wenbao immediately roared. He gathered all the remaining spacetime flames and heavily clashed with Lin Ling's palm. I don't believe it. Go to hell. Boom. The 2 palms collided, and flames sputtered everywhere. Chapter 2356. You're not even a cat. That's right, it was absorbed. Previously, the masked youth was able to block the spacetime fire because he had absorbed all of the spacetime fire. What was this guy's background? Bang! Almost at the next moment, Shi Wenbao's body flew backward and smashed into the ground, spitting out blood. Facing Lin Ling, he couldn't withstand a single blow. He struggled to get up. His eyes were bloodshot and he was about to go crazy. Because his strongest trump card was actually completely useless against the ghost-masked young man. What was laughable was that he thought everything was over. Lin Ling sneered and took a step forward. He arrived in front of Shi Wenba and looked down at him. Then, he stepped on Shi Wenba, who had just gotten up. "Where's your pride?" Shi Wenba. Shi Wenba struggled to stand up, but he couldn't block the foot behind him. He was trampled to the ground like a dog. "Where's your pride, Shi Wenba?" Lin Ling said again. In the past, because he sympathized with Shi Wenba, he tried his best to help him and seized the space-time fire for him. Unfortunately, Shi Wenba shouldn't be jealous of him because he was courting death. Lin Ling disliked ungrateful people the most. His principle in this life was to repay the kindness of a drop of water with a gushing spring. He had always been so. Ah! Shi Wenba lay on the ground and let out a ferocious roar. He had lost his mind. He flew very high and thought that he would shine brightly. He thought that he would bring glory to his ancestors, but Lin Ling made him return to reality. "That's enough. What hatred does he have with you? Why did you trample on him like this? Don't you think it's too much?" Su Jiulong's angry roar came from afar. He was completely furious. Today, he had done his best to support his son-in-law and let the entire city watch, but this was the result. Therefore, his hatred for the masked youth was beyond imagination. He only has himself to blame. Lin Ling slowly turned around and looked at Su Jiulong indifferently. "Nonsense." Su Jiulong's face was filled with murderous intent. "I think you're jealous of his talent, so you want to suppress him. Your mind is already twisted. Just because I ruined your son-in-law's future, you're wrongly accusing me?" Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed arrogantly. His black robe fluttered in the wind, and his domineering aura seemed to not even be afraid of the city lord. Once upon a time, there was a person who came from myriad worlds. Because he was too insignificant and had seen too many experts, he wasn't willing to let others control his life. Thus, he secretly worked hard and left a kind and pure impression among the geniuses. He was happy to help others, but he was only using them. Of course, not everyone saw through him. Others were deceived by him because of his hypocritical facade. They did everything they could to help him and allowed him to obtain a powerful talent. However, he framed his benefactor at the crucial moment. What's even more ironic is that he told everyone that his current achievements were obtained through his own hard work. Ridiculous, ridiculous. Without the help of others, where would he be today? He was using his friends, including you, the city lord, Su Jiulong. Lin Ling's voice was like thunder, clearly falling into everyone's ears. "I've heard of this rumor. Is it true?" Many people's eyes flickered. "You're slandering me. Die." Su Jiulong naturally knew that this news was true, so he directly attacked. He wanted to kill Lin Ling. Because Lin Ling had killed all of his hope. Boom! 9 dragons piercing the clouds. 9 golden dragons glowing with golden light swept toward Lin Ling as if they were swallowing the clouds and riding the mist. "Su Jiulong, you!" Beside him, Lord Lan exclaimed. He never thought that Su Jiulong would attack. In fact, after hearing Lin Ling's words, he also felt that Shi Wenba was too ugly. Ho, it seems that I've ruined your plans, so you want to silence me." However, as Lin Ling looked at those 9 terrifying dragons roaring towards him, his complexion didn't change at all. He stretched out his right hand and the power of the world essence in his 2 dantians crazily gushed out. 2 dantians, this was the power of 4 worlds. This was equal to a 4th-level world king. Bang! The power of world essence instantly erupted. He didn't need any martial arts, he just relied on brute strength to suppress. This is the power of world essence. Lord Lan wanted to help, but just as he moved, his complexion changed. Screw off. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Following Lin Ling's furious roar, the wind swirled and the clouds surged in midair. The 9 huge golden dragons were completely destroyed. City Lord Suzhulong was only at the 3rd level World King realm. To the current Lin Ling, he simply wasn't enough. Dang dang dang. Suzhulong crazily retreated, his face paling. When he finally stopped, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Who are you? He never imagined that a 2nd level World King Jr. would actually be able to wound him. Lin Ling didn't even glance at him, disdaining to speak. Seeing this, the entire city fell silent. Even the city lord wasn't this youth's match. Just who was this youth? As for Shi Wenbo, he was still lying on the ground, his face pale. Before this, he had been hoping that the city lord would kill this youth for him and wash away his shame. However, his dreams had come to naught. Who are you? Why would you harm me like this? I came from 10,000 worlds and have the strength I have today. Do you think it's easy? I just don't want to be someone else's slave anymore. I just want to prove myself. Why are you suppressing me? Shi Wenbo's voice was filled with pain. His long hair was a mess and his body shivered. Ho ho, you've started to deceive others' sympathy again. You want to use pity to make others think I'm suppressing you? Lin Ling stared at Shi Wenbo and shook his head. I really don't know you. Shi Wenbo roared. Is that so? Then do you remember how you treated your benefactor not long ago? Lin Ling placed his hand on the mask. His words stunned Shi Wenbo. At this moment, he thought of many people, because in the 8 gods' heavenly palace, there were many people who had helped him. However, the one he owed the most was still that mysterious youth. However, wasn't that youth dead? Impossible, all of this must be fake. Subconsciously, his pupils stared at Lin Ling. Lin Ling slowly took off his mask, revealing a handsome and cold face. Lin Ling. Shi Wenbo's heart exploded. It really was Lin Ling. At this moment, he was afraid. No wonder all the martial arts he knew were useless. It was Lin Ling. In fact, in his heart, Lin Ling could be considered half his master. You once said that a mountain cannot hide 2 tigers. At that time, I said that you are not a tiger in my heart, not even a cat. You think too highly of yourself. If I can nurture you, I can naturally destroy you easily. Lin Ling looked down at Shi Wenbo. His voice was cold, causing Shi Wenbo's body to tremble even more. He muttered, "What do you mean?" Chapter 2357. One sword kill boom. These words made Shi Wenbo's heart almost jump out. He seemed to understand something. You mean, even if I didn't frame you, you wouldn't harm me, and you wouldn't be jealous that I got the spacetime flame. You're right. In fact, spacetime might be very precious to you, but to me, it's just that. Lin Ling stretched out his right hand, and colorful flames instantly appeared, causing Shi Wenbo's face to turn as pale as paper. He thought that he had soared into the sky, but in Lin Ling's hands, he couldn't escape. I'm sorry, Lin Ling. I was wrong. Please spare my life. Shi Wenbo regretted it. He climbed up and quickly kowtowed. His miserable appearance made many people know that Lin Ling seemed to be the mysterious expert who nurtured Shi Wenbo. The funny thing was that Shi Wenbo actually had the nerve to say that the path of martial arts was one step at a time, and he obviously didn't grow up one step at a time. Are you begging me? But, do you see that coffin? Lin Ling stared at Shi Wenbo from the corner of his eyes. I see it, I see it. I was blinded for a moment. Please give me another chance. People will always make mistakes. Do I have to pay a heavy price for one mistake? Shi Wenbo looked at Lin Ling in fear, which made Lin Ling smile. In fact, from my point of view, I really don't care about your life or death. As soon as he said this, Shi Wenba's eyes lit up. Thank you, Brother Lin Ling. You're a magnanimous person. But. However, Lin Ling's voice sounded again, and it was cold. Lu Yi's death made me very unhappy. Although he wasn't a good person, at least he dared to take responsibility for his actions. However, he died in your hands. Both of you came from the myriad of worlds. He was working hard to become stronger, and so were you. However, he was obviously more magnanimous than you. After saying this, Lin Ling's arm grabbed out. No. Shi Wenba's eyes were wet. If time could flow, he would definitely not make a move against Lin Ling. Because the moment he made a move, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. And if he didn't make a move, Lin Ling would instead nurture him. He shouldn't have, he really shouldn't have. It could only be said that he had miscalculated. In Lin Ling's heart, he really wasn't a tiger, but he thought of himself as a tiger. He was just a cat. As a cat, one had to have the awareness of being a cat. Don't imagine yourself becoming a tiger, because that moment would be the moment of death. Crack. Shi Wenba's neck was broken, but his eyes were still wide open. He died with his eyes wide open. Today was the day he rose to power, but he fell just as he rose. Bang! Then, a figure was smashed into the black coffin in the distance. It was Shi Wenba. Big Brother Lin Ling. Little Peach and the others felt gratified. They had finally seen Shi Wenba die. Lin Ling smiled, turned around, and left. The purpose of this trip had been accomplished. Wait, you killed my son-in-law. That's destroying the hope of my Su family. Seeing Shi Wenba die, Su Jiulong's voice seemed to be distorted. Lin Ling, damn it. If it weren't for Lin Ling, he, Su Jiulong, would have followed Shi Wenba and soared into the sky. However, Lin Ling had killed all his hopes. When he harmed me, why didn't you run out to speak for me? Lin Ling continued to walk forward, not even looking at the city lord. Even so, that's a matter of the past. You're petty and insist on settling scores. You've gone too far. Su Jiulong walked out. The resentment in his heart couldn't be extinguished no matter what. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Lin Ling smiled contemptuously. It was undeniable that he had killed Su Jiulong's future, but he didn't know Su Jiulong. It was impossible for him to let Shi Wenba go because of him. If that was the case, who would avenge those guides who died at Shi Wenba's hands? If you don't give me an explanation, you can't leave here. Su Jiulong waved his right hand heavily. His face was extremely ferocious. Bang bang bang. Suddenly, a large number of martial artists in armor appeared. At the same time, the city gates of Nine Dragon City were closed, sealing off the entire city. This terrifying scene made many people hold their breaths. It seemed that the city lord would never let that young man leave. Finishing touch. However, at this moment, Lin Ling waved his right hand. The tyrannical song sword hidden in his ring finally appeared. His two dantians also began to circulate crazily, forming the most terrifying sword. That sword was incomparably fast. That was a sword that killed. The power of tremors spread out at the same time. Bang bang bang. The surrounding buildings instantly collapsed and were shaken into pieces. Su Jiulong, be careful. Lord Lan's expression changed drastically. He immediately shouted anxiously. However, it was too late. Su Jiulong was no match for Lin Ling before, let alone Lin Ling now that he had used a sword. Pooh! A glaring blood spurted out. A sword mark appeared on Su Jiulong's neck. He stared at Lin Ling and fell on his back. Talking nonsense when you don't have the strength. Do you want to die? Die. Lin Ling smiled coldly and continued to move forward. Dead. The city lord of Nine Dragons City was killed. The armored guards did not dare to speak at this moment. As for the surrounding people, they did not expect Lin Ling to be so strong. However, they also thought that the city lord deserved it. The other person had the strength to easily kill him, but he actually wanted Lin Ling to stay. He was simply muddle-headed. Does anyone else have any objections? Lin Ling said as he walked. At the same time, a cold aura was emitted from his body. However, the whole city was silent. Lord Lan looked deeply at Lin Ling and finally fell silent. This was because he realized that even he was not Lin Ling's opponent. This guy was so strong. He should have entered the 3 great academies long ago. Little Peach, let's go. Lin Ling beckoned to the people in the distance and calmly led them out of the city. Rumble. The falling city gate was directly slashed open by Lin Ling. The people in the city looked at the coffin on the ground and then at the chaotic Nine Dragons City. They were speechless for a long time. At this moment, Lin Ling led Little Peach and the others away and asked them to enter the scout barracks of the martial gods barracks. Along the way, Lin Ling asked the passers-by. After getting the general direction, he anxiously returned to the martial gods barracks. Xian Yuan Gu, and the others should be in the martial gods barracks now. The journey took a day. Not long after, the ancient martial gods barracks appeared in his sight. I'm finally back. Lin Ling revealed a smile. This trip to the 8 gods' heavenly palace was full of twists and turns. Fortunately, his strength had greatly increased and he had also collected the space and time divine steel. Now, it was time for him to go to the 3 great academies to find Yu Yu and the others. But, Lord Lin Ling. When Lin Ling approached the martial gods barracks, the faces of the soldiers changed drastically. Lin Ling glanced at the soldiers. His intuition told him that something must have happened. Lord Lin Ling, you haven't returned for 3 months. You have violated the military order and will be beheaded in public. Moreover, everyone in the scout barracks has been captured. The soldier greatly admired Lin Ling. Therefore, he reminded him in a soft voice, "My lord, you should leave the martial gods barracks immediately." Chapter 2358. The imperial edict had arrived. Dong dong dong. At this moment, the war drums in the martial gods barracks were beaten, and a large number of armored soldiers marched out. Halt! The war horses were in a frenzy, and the sound of armor rang out one after another. These indifferent soldiers quickly surrounded Lin Ling. Lin Ling frowned when he saw this. However, when he thought of Xian Yuan Gu, and the others, anger rose in his heart. Although he didn't know what had happened, Xian Yuan Gu, and the others had better be fine. Otherwise, they couldn't blame him, Lin Ling. Almost at the same time, a familiar voice rang out. Lin Ling, leave quickly. Deputy General Shan Yang is going to harm you. Commander Huang Qi and the others rushed out when they heard the news. Leave the martial gods barracks immediately. Their voices were extremely anxious, causing Lin Ling's expression to change drastically. To be able to cause Commander Huang Qi and the others to be helpless, this meant that the person who had attacked him was extremely powerful. Deputy General Shan Yang? The old man who had previously made a military order with Lin Ling? Who dares to let him go? Bang! However, at this moment, a majestic roar rang out, causing the surrounding soldiers to take a step forward. They were orderly and majestic, and firmly trapped Lin Ling in the center. A powerful aura also spread out. Although these soldiers were not strong, the military aura when gathered together was extremely frightening. How dare you? Without the general's order, how can you capture Lin Ling? Commander Huang Qi and the others immediately roared angrily. Subsequently, many other commanders voiced their support. As for the distance, a large number of soldiers had arrived, but they were all spectators. Lord Lin Ling has returned. Is he still alive? Amazing. As expected of the youngest commander of the martial gods barracks. He's not afraid even in the face of thousands of soldiers. However, he seems to have violated the military rules. Many of the new soldiers whispered to each other. They had a deep admiration for the legendary Lin Ling. Lin Ling, how dare you come back? At this moment, the old voice sounded again, causing the army to fall silent. An old man in white armor walked over majestically. He was Deputy General Shan Yang. Bring him out. After he walked out, he waved his hand. Lin Ling. Milord. The people of the scout camp were all captured, and their bodies were bound by mysterious chains, making it impossible for them to resist. Among them were Gong Yangjiang, Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword, and Xian Yuan Gu, Seeing this, Lin Ling's face became even gloomier. He still didn't know what had happened. How dare you, Lin Ling? You've made a military order, yet you've fled outside. Do you know your crime? Deputy General Shan Yang looked at Lin Ling indifferently. His voice was extremely dignified. Because you have violated the military rules, the entire scout camp will be executed. What? Hearing this, many people's expressions changed drastically. There were so many people in the scout camp. If they were all executed, who knew how many lives would be lost? Milord Lin Ling, don't bother about us. Leave quickly. Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword and the others said, asking Lin Ling to leave this place immediately. However, Lin Ling remained silent, and his face was still gloomy. Lin Ling, I know you're not convinced, but let me tell you, the military rules are as firm as a mountain. No matter who you are, if you dare to violate the military rules, you will be executed. Deputy General Shan Yang's old face revealed a sinister smile, and he waved his hands. Rumble. A huge cloth appeared in the sky, covering the mountains and rivers, causing the mountains and rivers to tremble. Bang! 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 The surrounding soldiers felt the terrifying pressure, and they all knelt down on one knee. Their faces were filled with fear. The imperial decree has arrived. The dazzling cloth dispersed, and 3 magnificent words appeared in the sky. It was an imperial decree. Imperial decree of all realms. Lin Ling's eyes narrowed. That was because it was a supreme grade treasure, which was of a higher grade than his tyrannical song sword. Although it did not have any attack power, it was majestic. If this imperial decree was placed in all realms, it would definitely be able to suppress all realms. In fact, Li Xiaoyao had seen this type of imperial edict in the past. Legend has it that it was made from the skin of an imperial king. One had to sacrifice 100 million imperial kings and peel off their skin and bones in order to create an imperial edict. These dead imperial kings came from myriad worlds. No matter if it was a major realm or a small realm, as long as one could become an emperor, they would have the aura of an emperor. The imperial decree of all realms required that mysterious aura of an emperor. Lin Ling, you were ordered to investigate the enemy's situation, but you have done nothing and delayed the military situation. The great Azure God dynasty has decided to execute you publicly to respect the righteousness of the Azure state. At the same time, the imperial decree appeared, and the radiant words shocked the 9 states. Lin Ling stared at the imperial decree, and his heart became heavy. Previously, he was full of doubts. Because in a place like the martial god barracks, Deputy General Shan Yang was not qualified to execute him. After all, the martial god barracks still had 3 great generals and marshals. But now, he understood. So it was the great Azure God dynasty. Legend had it that the martial god barracks was just a military barracks of the great Azure God dynasty. The martial god barracks obviously could not go against the will of the god dynasty. However, the great Azure god dynasty had issued an imperial decree for Lin Ling. This was making a mountain out of a molehill. Lin Ling thought carefully. He did not have many enemies at the moment, only the two heavenly blessings of the Azure state, Yi Shao Shou of the heavenly court, only Wa Commandery, and Tating Commandery. However, these people were obviously not qualified to make the imperial decree move. Then, who killed Lin Ling first? Lin Ling could not understand all of this. He could not see through the person behind this. Could it be? Suddenly, Lin Ling's heart froze. Could it be Grandma Wendao? Because among the people he knew, Grandma Wendao was the most mysterious. And Grandma Wendao obviously would not harm him. The person's target should not be Lin Ling. Maybe it was Grandma Wendao. He was just bait. This meant that in the Eight Gods' heavenly palace, because Void had saved Lin Ling, this had led to people guessing that Lin Ling was related to Grandma Wendao. Shaking his head, Lin Ling thought too much. He could only say that Grandma Wendao's origins were beyond his imagination. Men, capture him. At this time, Deputy General Shan Yang sneered. I'll do it. A Grand Commander stepped forward and walked towards Lin Ling with a dignified expression. Stop. However, at this time, Senior Commander Huang Qi and the others flashed, blocking in front of the Senior Commander. I didn't expect Lin Ling to have so many accomplices. Let me see who dares to block the imperial decree. Kill without mercy. Deputy General Shan Yang shook his head. For vast worlds appeared above his head. He pushed out with one hand, forming a storm that attacked the senior commanders. Fourth stage of the World King realm. This level of strength was clearly not something that the senior commanders could block. Ka. A tyrannical strength appeared. Senior Commander Huang Qi and the others spat out a mouthful of blood and crashed to the ground, losing the strength to fight. The youngest senior commander in the history of the Martial God Battalion? I don't think so. Deputy General Shan Yang did not even look at Huang Qi and the others. He crossed his arms and stared at Lin Ling with contempt. Capture him. With his voice, the senior commander walked towards Lin Ling once more. The surrounding soldiers were silent. They could see that Lin Ling would not be able to escape this calamity today. If you want to capture Lin Ling, you'll have to pass through me first. But what surprised everyone was that another person had appeared to protect him. Chapter 2359. Three Sins. I didn't expect Lin Ling to have so many supporters in the Martial God Battalion despite his young age. Also, look at the Scout Battalion. Everyone has been captured, but none of them are begging for mercy. This shows that Lord Lin Ling is a righteous man. Many soldiers spoke out. The scene in front of them had exceeded their expectations. You're courting death. Deputy General Shan Yang's face darkened. The imperial decree had been issued, but there were still people who dared to protect Lin Ling. Were they trying to embarrass him? I don't believe that I can't catch a traitor like you. He pointed his finger at Commander Qian Xian. A sharp light pierced through the air and penetrated Commander Qian Xian's armor, causing him to spit out blood and fly backward. Who else is there? Following that, Deputy General Shan Yang roared angrily. Wherever his gaze passed, the crowd was frightened like cicadas in winter. What if it's me? However, something unexpected happened again. A man stood on an ancient chariot and slowly approached them. Deputy General Shan Yang's eyes flickered. Deputy General Hong Jing, do you dare to go against the imperial decree? The man who had come was extremely powerful. He was Deputy General Hong Jing. I don't dare to go against the imperial decree. However, I like this lad. What's the big deal about protecting him? The man on the chariot said indifferently as the chariot stopped. He seemed to have thrown caution to the wind and was determined to protect Lin Ling. It seems like you're going to go against the imperial decree. Deputy General Shan Yang laughed when he heard that. He didn't seem to be in a hurry. All right, you can protect him and let him leave. However, I can tell you that he can't escape forever. If he escapes, the Martial God Battalion will put him on the wanted list. Many people's faces changed drastically when they heard that. The Martial God Battalion had always been suppressing bandits. Everywhere they went, they were majestic. However, Lin Ling was going to become a bandit and be killed by them? This was hard to accept. Deputy General Hong Jing frowned. If he helped Lin Ling escape, then Lin Ling's crime would be confirmed. For a moment it was difficult for him to choose. Lin Ling, go. Today, I won't kill you. But let me tell you, after you leave, everyone in the scout camp will die for you. Seeing that Deputy General Hong Jing did not dare to speak, Deputy General Shan Yang looked at Lin Ling with a cold smile on his aged face. In reality, he had no enmity with Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling had spoiled his plans. In addition to the Imperial Edict, he would naturally use the Imperial Edict to kill Lin Ling. At the very least, it would let the army know that no matter how powerful the commander was, in front of Deputy General Shan Yang, everything was nothing. Lin Ling, leave. Don't pay attention to us. Milord, let's go. Within the scout camp, many people spoke out, causing Lin Ling's eyes to flicker continuously. Will you die, or will they die? Seeing this scene, Deputy General Shan Yang laughed even louder. He seemed to be very pleased. This is your wife, right? Not bad, she's quite beautiful. It's a pity that she's going to die as soon as she comes to the Martial God Barracks. Lin Ling, oh Lin Ling, if you didn't let her come to the Martial God Barracks, she wouldn't have died. It's a pity that you harmed her and made her die for you. Deputy General Shan Yang pointed at Xian Yuangu and said. This caused Xian Yuangu to grit her teeth and remain silent. Go, why aren't you leaving? I want to see if my life or my woman is more important. Deputy General Shan Yang was clearly toying with Lin Ling. Seeing this scene, many people secretly clenched their fists. This Deputy General Shan Yang was very hateful. Lin Ling, leave. Don't pay attention to me. Xian Yuangu also looked at Lin Ling and said word by word. She didn't want to be a burden to Lin Ling because of her. As long as Lin Ling left, he would be able to fly even higher. If this is the only way we can meet again in this life, I will still wait for you in the next life. Xian Yuangu's voice reverberated in the Martial God Barracks. It was extremely unyielding. Seeing this scene, Deputy General Shan Yang laughed even louder. He loved to see this kind of life and death parting scene the most. Lin Ling, this junior, was going to die without a doubt. However, being able to see him in pain was undoubtedly very pleasing. I won't leave. However, his laughter quickly stopped because Lin Ling's determined voice floated out. The crowd quieted down. They looked at the determined young man and felt deeply moved. Although they didn't know what Lord Lin Ling and that woman had experienced, the heavens and earth could bear witness to their feelings. Very infatuated and a man of his word. As expected of a good man. Deputy General Shan Yang laughed and rubbed his chin. He looked at Lin Ling as though he was praising him. Lin Ling, in his black robe, stood in front of everyone's eyes. He wasn't afraid even if the sky collapsed. He was like an undefeatable god of war. At this moment, even Deputy General Shan Yang was affected by Lin Ling's aura. In terms of aura, he was obviously weaker than Lin Ling. As for the surrounding soldiers, it was even more so. I suddenly changed my mind. I will give you a way out now. Suddenly, Deputy General Shan Yang said indifferently, will Lin Ling die? Or will the entire scout barracks be executed? Between the two, you can only choose one. If you want to live, step forward. Then Lin Ling will die. If you want to die, then just stay silent. His sinister voice floated out again, still with a hint of mockery. To him, this kind of game where the palm of his hand was meat and the back of his hand was also meat was too fun. How despicable. Deputy General Shan Yang obviously won't let Lin Ling go, but he is still toying with Lin Ling. Hearing those words, many soldiers secretly clenched their fists. They could guess what Deputy General Shan Yang was thinking. However, although they knew that Deputy General Shan Yang was toying with Lin Ling, they couldn't deny that this was the only chance for Lin Ling to live. Subconsciously, everyone looked at the scout barracks. They wanted to know what choice they would make. However, the scout barracks people all laughed. Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword laughed. Gongyang Jiang laughed. Lin Ling's 3 disciples also laughed. They were all silent. Good man. Seeing this, many soldiers felt their blood boiling. Those people were silent. This meant that they would rather die than betray Sir Lin Ling. It had to be said that Lin Ling had brought up a team with backbone. Deputy General Shan Yang's face was somewhat ugly. There were so many people in the scout barracks. As long as one of them spoke, then Lin Ling would definitely die. At that time, Lin Ling would definitely be in pain because his soldiers wanted him to die. However, so many people didn't speak. This was no doubt a resounding slap on Deputy General Shan Yang's face. Sir. At this time, a clear voice suddenly sounded, making Deputy General Shan Yang laugh. It seemed that someone couldn't hold back anymore. He looked at the person who spoke and said, "Haha, I thought that you, Lin Ling, was very powerful. However, that's all there is to it. Tell me, how do you want Lin Ling to die?" "I agree. You think too much. I just want to say that if you want to kill him, then hurry up. Don't make us look down on you." The person who spoke was Xian Yuan Gu. She revealed a beautiful smile. Her pride was strong and she wasn't much weaker than Lin Ling. When these words were spoken, the whole barracks was shocked. Chapter 2360. Lin Ling's counterattack. Deputy General Shan Yang was stunned. Veins popped out on his forehead, and the anger in his heart erupted like a volcano. This woman was asking for death. She even wanted him to kill her without hesitation, or she would look down on him. How could there be such a foolish person in this world? She was too stubborn. In the distance, Lin Ling laughed as he stared at Xian Yuan Gu. She was indeed Lin Ling's woman. Kill, kill, kill all of them. Men, come and tear these people into pieces. Deputy General Shan Yang ground his teeth and finally gave the order to kill. The good show he was looking forward to did not happen, and he was being looked down on. Are we really going to kill them? Many people's eyes lit up when they heard that. They looked at the scout battalion and Lin Ling. They did not expect the scout battalion to be wiped out today. This kind of thing was hard for them to accept. Deputy General Shan Yang, you don't have the right. Although Lin Ling has only been in the Martial God Battalion for a short time, he has contributed a lot. We won't accept it if we kill him because of a failed mission. I want to see the 3 great generals. Commander Huang Qi and the others held their injured chests and roared angrily. Unfortunately, their voices were weak and powerless. Shut up, the 3 great generals will not come out for Lin Ling. Even if they come out, so what? Lin Ling has violated the military rules, and no one can save him. Otherwise, it will be disobeying the imperial edict. That was the truth. Not only was Deputy General Shan Yang not afraid, he shouted angrily, "Kill him! He waved his hand heavily. The surrounding soldiers sighed in their hearts. Although they did not want to touch Lin Ling, they could not defy military orders. Lord Lin Ling, sorry for the offense. The soldiers thought to themselves. Wait. However, at this moment, a voice finally drifted out. Lin Ling had spoken. Those soldiers subconsciously stopped in their tracks and looked at Lin Ling. Even Deputy General Shan Yang was the same. However, he had a cold smile on his face. Lin Ling had been silent all this time, which made him very unhappy. Was he finally going to speak now? He was definitely begging for mercy. At this moment, Lin Ling stepped forward, his black robe fluttering in the wind. You said that I broke the military rules. I don't know what military rules I broke. Lin Ling's voice was very calm, but it had a powerful majesty that silenced the entire army. Huh, it seems like you died with your eyes wide open. Then let me tell you. First, the martial god camp sent you to investigate the 8 gods' heavenly palace, and you ended up with nothing. Secondly, the martial god battalion asked you to eliminate the sea burial discord phoenix monarch, but you let the tiger return to the mountain. Third, you led the scouts out, but you let them all die. These 3 crimes are enough for you to die. Deputy General Shan Yang's voice was like the might of the heavens as he sentenced Lin Ling to death. When did the order become like this? Hearing this, many people's expressions changed drastically. Even Deputy General Hong Jing's pupils constricted. He shouted angrily, Deputy General Shan Yang, don't use a chicken feather as a command arrow. When you signed the military order with Lin Ling, you didn't say that Lin Ling was going to kill the sea burial discord phoenix monarch. Now you want Lin Ling to kill the sea burial discord phoenix monarch? Is this possible? He knew that if you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Most importantly, the other party had an imperial edict. Otherwise, he would have been the first to rebel. Deputy General Hong Jing, don't forget the purpose of this expedition. Aren't we going to eliminate the sea burial discord phoenix monarch? Since Lin Ling volunteered, he must have this purpose. If he can't do it, he will be violating the military order. Deputy General Shan Yang said with a cold snort. You. Deputy General Hong Jing couldn't refute. The other party was too shameless. Lin Ling, do you have anything to say? Seeing that no one refuted him, Deputy General Shan Yang looked at Lin Ling again. But Lin Ling continued to move forward. His eyes were very cold, like a sharp sword that revealed its sharpness. 3 crimes. Very good, very good. His voice drifted out with a touch of madness. It made people think that he was going to fight Deputy General Shan Yang to the death. Of course, no one thought that Lin Ling was a match for Deputy General Shan Yang. Even Deputy General Shan Yang thought so. You said that I led the scouts out, but they were all wiped out. Let me ask you, who did I bring out? Lin Ling's voice became loud and clear like thunder. Deputy General Shan Yang was speechless when he heard this. Lin Ling only brought 4 people with him. They were Huang Qi, Ling Hulei, Gong Yangjiang and Tang Yue. But now, they had returned safe and sound. You can't say it, right? Then I'll say it for you. Huang Qi, Ling Hulei, Gong Yangjiang and Tang Yue, please open your big dog eyes and see if they are dead. Lin Ling began to be aggressive. At the same time, Commander Huang Qi and the others shouted angrily, we are still alive, we are here. The whole army fell silent when they heard this. Deputy General Shan Yang gritted his teeth. He was angry out of humiliation. Don't tell me you want to blame the death of the first batch of scouts on me. Lin Ling continued to move forward. Deputy General Shan Yang laughed crazily, you are not guilty of the 3rd crime, but the remaining 2 are enough to kill you. However, just as he finished speaking, Lin Ling's voice drifted out. The 8 gods' heavenly palace has been sealed again. No one can enter the third level. The first level is the meteorite spacetime, and the second level is the earth elemental land. The mysterious experts sent out this time are from the Fortune Manor, the Heavenly Court and even the Flying Dragon organization. Is this military intelligence enough? This. Deputy General Shan Yang was speechless again. He thought that Lin Ling was just a small soldier. Even if he mixed in with the 8 gods' heavenly palace's troops, he wouldn't be able to get any useful information. However, who knew that Lin Ling seemed to have followed those big shots into the 8 gods' heavenly palace? Such a thing was simply a miracle. After all, if those big shots wanted to kill Lin Ling, it would be as easy as flipping their hands. Deputy General Shan Yang, you can't answer, right? In fact, even if I spouted some nonsense, you wouldn't know whether it was true or false. Because you have never been there. Now, you are saying that I haven't investigated the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Are you still guilty? Lin Ling said again. Hearing this, Deputy General Shan Yang flew into a rage out of humiliation. He sneered, "Fine, fine, fine. You have evaded the second crime, but as long as you don't fulfill the last crime, you will be beheaded." At this moment, he was completely enraged. He didn't expect Lin Ling to do something he couldn't do. However, what was the use? Lin Ling still had to die. Rumble. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a head rolled out and rolled to Deputy General Shan Yang's feet. Deputy General Shan Yang flew into a rage. "What are you doing?" He kicked the man's head away, and his murderous aura soared to the sky. "Wait, that seems to be the head of the sea-burial disorderly Phoenix King." However, at this moment, Deputy General Hong Jing's horrified voice drifted out. Suddenly, the whole army fell silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the head. At this moment, their expressions were wonderful. Yes, they could see that it was indeed the head of the sea-burial disorderly Phoenix King. Chapter 2361. Armor removal. Oh my God! What's going on? What? This is the head of the sea-burial disorderly Phoenix. Deputy General Shan Yang's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he heard Deputy General Hong Jing's voice. Because the sea-burial disorderly Phoenix was more powerful than him. Even he couldn't kill it. How could Lin Ling succeed? He rushed over, grabbed the head, and examined it. His old face became more and more serious. Because he was sure that it was the head of the sea-burial disorderly Phoenix. With his strength, he could naturally tell that it wasn't a fake head. Also, there was still blood flowing from the head. It was the blood of the blue phoenix, which was the symbol of the sea-burial disorderly Phoenix. At this moment, he held the head and stood there stupidly. "Deputy General Shan Yang, may I ask what other crimes I have committed?" At this moment, Lin Ling's powerful voice rang out, as if an army was pressing down on him. His silence earlier didn't mean that he admitted his guilt. He just wanted to see what tricks this old man was playing. And now, it was time for the game to end. "Deputy General, may I ask what other crimes Commander Lin Ling has committed?" At this moment, the scout camp also shouted angrily, and their voices shook the 9 heavens. They were very excited. They didn't expect Lord Lin Ling to kill the sea-burial disorderly Phoenix. This was too terrifying. "Deputy General, may I ask what other crimes Commander Lin Ling has committed?" Almost at the same time, the whole army also shouted questions, and the soldiers and horses were ready to move. "This guy." Deputy General Hong Jing smiled. This result was beyond his imagination. Thump. Thump. Deputy General Shan Yang stepped back. The terrifying army around him made his face turn pale. "Deputy General, may I ask what other crimes Commander Lin Ling has committed?" However, at this moment, those orderly voices came crashing down like an avalanche. Not guilty. Deputy General Shan Yang gritted his teeth and finally said something that he was very unwilling to accept. The imperial edict was still floating in the sky, but it was very ironic at this moment. Obviously, the person who issued the imperial edict didn't know that Lin Ling had accomplished these miracles. As a result, the imperial edict was useless because this was a groundless crime. Do you still have the military order? At this moment, Lin Ling was like an unsheathed sword, full of sharpness, and he was as powerful as thunder. He and Deputy General Shan Yang's military edict, if Lin Ling, Deputy General Shan Yang had to kneel in the army in Deputy General Shan Yang and Shan Yang's military edict. How arrogant Deputy General Shan Yang was, Shan Deputy General, Lin's Shan Yang, Shan Deputy General, as, was, Shan Yang's Lin on Luan on Yang's. Is it? The deafening sound suppressed Deputy General Shan Yang, forming countless echoes. Deputy General Shan Yang's face began to turn ferocious. He was a deputy general, an expert above the rank of Grand Commander. Yet, he had to kneel. He could admit that Lin Ling was not guilty, but for him to kneel down and remove his armor, that was a dream. Today's matter ends here. Deputy General, is. Seeing Deputy General Shan Yang leave without explaining anything, all the soldiers were shocked. This old man didn't keep his word. This is none of your business. Disperse immediately, or you will be punished according to the military law. As Deputy General Shan Yang walked forward, he shouted sternly, using his military power to suppress those dissatisfied voices. Do you think you can leave? At this moment, Lin Ling also let out a furious roar. This old man had wanted to kill him before. Most importantly, this old man was toying with Xianyuan Gu. This touched Lin Ling's reverse scale. Therefore, how could he allow this old man to leave so easily? Bang! He took a step forward and a terrifying aura erupted, causing the soldiers around him to fall off their horses. He was like a god of war as he shot towards Deputy General Shan Yang. Lin Ling! Deputy General Hong Jing shouted anxiously. Lin Ling was too impulsive. How could he be a match for Deputy General Shan Yang? You want to attack me? You are courting death. Deputy General Shan Yang also stopped in his tracks at this moment. His old face was filled with anger. He didn't think that Lin Ling would be so arrogant, daring to attack him in front of an army. This was simply overestimating himself. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In the skies, the wind and clouds began to stir. Lin Ling's figure arrived, like a god descending to the mortal world. At this moment, Deputy General Shan Yang also saw that Lin Ling was only at the second stage of the World King realm. As for him, he was at the fourth stage of the World King realm. Lin Ling was really courting death, absolutely courting death. Flying cry resplendent spear. Without holding back, Deputy General Shan Yang angrily shouted. The power of 4 great world essences erupted and a black spear appeared in his hands. As this spear appeared, the heavens and earth roared. Wung wung wung. Everyone's ears began to ring. Some of the weaker ones even began to bleed from their ears. That spear was terrifying to the extreme. The power of 4 great world essences in addition to that extraordinary spear, no one believed that Lin Ling could block that spear. Damn! Deputy General Hong Jing had already shot forwards. He wanted to help Lin Ling. But, did Lin Ling need his help? Although Deputy General Shan Yang's cultivation boundary was higher, his talent was clearly lacking. He only had a 4th-grade mystic body. With such strength, Lin Ling didn't fear him at all. Blade Mountain Sword Tree. Lin Ling's angry roar rumbled out from his mouth, like a peal of heavenly thunder. Within Lin Ling's body, the world essences of his 2 dantians began to boil, completely fusing together. In that instant, he possessed the power of 4 great world essences. But, he didn't erupt with the flames of time and space. He didn't even use the space-time divine steel. This was because Deputy General Shan Yang clearly wanted to suppress him with his cultivation boundary. Thus, Lin Ling's current attack was more than enough. Ka ka ka. The void split open. A dazzling sword light appeared, causing the earth to shake. This was the power of vibration. At this time, the power of chaos of the ultimate sword Dao also appeared. The shocking sword appeared, just like the first stroke of the word mystic. Ka ka ka. At this time, the sword ruthlessly slashed down. What? In the distance, Deputy General Hong Jing stopped in his tracks. His face was filled with fear. This was because he could feel how terrifying that sword was. The power of the world essences was enormous. If he hadn't seen Lin Ling with his own eyes, he would have thought that Lin Ling was at the 4th stage of the World King realm. Damn brat, your sword! Deputy General Shan Yang maintained his posture of thrusting out his spear. However, on his old face, there was fear, dread, and surprise. He didn't think that Lin Ling's sword would be so terrifying. He had underestimated Lin Ling. Rumble rumble rumble. The word Xian came slashing down. The huge sword body was domineering and magnificent. Ka ka ka. The spear in Deputy General Shan Yang's hand instantly cracked. The power of vibration made it so that he couldn't hold the spear firmly. Even his palm was cracked. Rumble rumble rumble. The spear cracked and the ancient sword smoothly slashed down. Pung! Dust spread out like a heaven-shaking explosion. At this moment, time seemed to stop. How is it? Many soldiers said, their hearts trembling with fear. In their eyes, 2 figures were standing on the ground. They were Lin Ling and Deputy General Shan Yang. As for Lin Ling, he slowly put away his sword. Could it be? Seeing this, many people's hearts thundered. Lin Ling put away his sword. Could it be that Lin Ling had one? Lin Ling was a great commander. How could he defeat a deputy general? This was too terrifying. Ka ka ka. Chapter 2362. Promoted to Deputy General Pa. Soon after, an ear-piercing sound was heard and the armor was completely shattered. This was the removal of armor. To a soldier, there were only 2 occasions when they could remove their armor. First, they could retire with glory. This was undoubtedly a proud removal of armor. Second, their armor was removed by the enemy. This was undoubtedly a disgrace. There were even some proud and unyielding warriors who would rather die than live if their armor was stripped off. Now, Deputy General Shan Yang had his armor removed. This was a disgrace to a soldier. However, a stream of blood flowed down from his forehead. He stared at Lin Ling and finally knelt down powerlessly. Plop. After kneeling down, his head hung there powerlessly. He was killed by a sword. Deputy General Shan Yang was dead. He did not remove his armor. This was going back on his word. A soldier's word was worth 1,000 gold. Going back on one's word was taboo. Therefore, Lin Ling sent him on his way. He's dead. At this moment, the entire army was silent. They had never imagined that Lin Ling would be able to kill a deputy general. This strength meant that Lin Ling had the qualifications to become a deputy general. Deputy General Shan Yang and Lin Ling's promise was that if Deputy General Shan Yang lost, he would remove his armor and kneel in front of the entire army. I never expected that he would fulfill his promise after his death. Deputy General Hong Jing kept shaking his head. All of this was ironic because Deputy General Shan Yang had died kneeling. The crowd looked at the old man who was kneeling motionlessly. At this moment, they felt conflicted. A powerful deputy general had died in front of them. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would have thought that it was a dream. Deputy General Shan Yang gave a false imperial edict and deceived the entire army. I was ordered by the Martial God Battalion to kill him. At the same time, Lin Ling placed his hands behind his back and looked indifferently into the distance. As soon as these words were spoken, many people were stunned. As for Deputy General Hong Jing, he nodded his head in praise. Lin Ling was very smart. He had killed Deputy General Shan Yang, but he had also found a good excuse for himself. After all, no matter what, Lin Ling had offended his superior. In this way, those higher-ups would naturally take advantage of the situation and spare Lin Ling. After all, Deputy General Shan Yang was already dead. Anything else he said would be fake. Moreover, with this excuse, the Martial God Battalion could also answer to the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. Quickly come and see the Lord. Sure enough, a faint voice came from the sky. It didn't seem to blame Lin Ling. Great! Seeing this, everyone in the scout camp became excited. The eyes of the other soldiers were also filled with worship. After this incident, Lin Ling would definitely become a deputy general. Thank you, sir. Lin Ling revealed a brilliant smile. After glancing at Xian Yuan Gu, and the others, he strode towards the depths of the Martial Gods Barracks. Lin Ling of the Martial Gods Barracks. Amazing, amazing. In the future, I will also learn from him. Step by step, I will become a general of the Martial Gods Barracks. I want to join the scout camp. After Lin Ling left, the soldiers all cheered, causing Deputy General Hong Jing to shake his head helplessly. The military camp looked at one's strength. If one had great strength and an unyielding fighting spirit, they would be worshipped by the soldiers. Lin Ling clearly had both of these qualities. As for the former Falling Flowers, Flowing Water, and Commander June, they looked at each other with bitter smiles on their faces. Although they knew that they couldn't catch up to Lin Ling, they still didn't expect Lin Ling's growth to be so exaggerated. At this moment, Lin Ling was striding forward towards the Demon Break Mountain. Roar! From time to time, tiger roars could be heard from the Demon Break Mountain. Lin Ling smiled as he recalled the first time he came to this mountain and how that stupid tiger had stopped him. Long time no see, Demon Break Tiger. Long time no see. At the base of the mountain, Lin Ling lightly said. The tiger roars instantly vanished. It was clear that the Demon Break Tiger was thinking of Lin Ling. This freak didn't fear any of its military might or momentum. Ha! Ha! Lin Ling boldly laughed as he stepped up the mountain. At this time, atop the Demon Break Mountain, the three old men looked at each other, wry smiles on their faces. This little brat was as arrogant as ever. After his trip to the 8 Divinity Heavenly Palace, his strength has risen rapidly. He seems to be at the 2nd level of the World King realm, but he only needs a single sword strike to kill a 4th level World King. TSK, he's hiding secrets that we don't know about. This is strange. His talent is only at the Mystic Body realm. I can't understand where he gets his combat strength from. Ha! A soldier that doesn't want to be a general isn't a good soldier. But, a soldier that doesn't even want to be a general, I have no idea what sort of soldier he is. The three great generals looked at each other and then burst into laughter. Their Martial God Barracks had been recruiting soldiers for many years, but Lin Ling was a freak, and there was no other. Greetings, three generals. Soon, Lin Ling appeared atop the mountain peak. He bowed as he looked at Huang Fuidao and the others. There's no need to bow. You smelly brat, even though you're bowing on the surface, I don't think you have much respect for us in your heart. Huang Fuidao jokingly scolded. When Lin Ling had forced his way into the Demon Break Mountain, he knew that this was a restless soldier. Hearing this, Lin Ling ruefully smiled. Was he really so arrogant? You were able to survive the trip to the 8 Divinity Heavenly Palace and return alive from the hands of so many powerhouses. Not bad at all. But, you shouldn't do such risky things in the future. The Demon Break Great General said. Thank you for your concern, sir. Lin Ling's heart warmed. He knew that the concern of these 3 old men came from the bottom of their hearts. It was just that the 8 Divinity Heavenly Palace was extremely important to him. It was impossible for him to have missed it at that time. I know that you have doubts about what happened before. I'll tell you now. The Imperial Edict is real. Therefore, it was difficult for us to interfere before. Huangfu Yidao explained. In fact, there was no need for him to explain. Lin Ling naturally understood. In the Martial God Barracks, the 3 generals had a higher status. However, if Deputy General Shan Yang dared to be so arrogant, it meant that he relied on the Imperial Edict. The Martial God Barracks is just a military barracks of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. Sometimes, we still have to listen to the orders of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. Another general, Shi Longsha, also said. However, he also had some doubts. In fact, we also don't understand why the Imperial Edict is targeting you. Therefore, I'm afraid that there's someone you know in the Great Azure Divine Dynasty who is an enemy. I'm not too sure either. However, the truth will come to light eventually. Lin Ling's eyes flickered. He guessed that this matter had something to do with Grandma Wendao. Although his enemy, the Heavenly Court, was also very powerful, the Heavenly Court obviously didn't know that he was Li Xiaoyao. Therefore, the Heavenly Court wouldn't attack him for the time being. With your current strength, you can already fight a deputy general. In addition to the military merits of the 8 Divinity Heavenly Palace, you've been promoted to a deputy general. It's time for us to fulfill our promise. Your monthly divine crystal reward will be increased by 100 times and you'll be rewarded with a set of treasured armor. Huangfu Yidao said with a smile. Thank you, sir. Lin Ling was delighted. His current talent wasn't bad, but cultivation resources would always be what he lacked the most. You've also become a martial candidate. However, what do you plan to do next? The Demon Destroyer General asked. I want to go to the Resplendent Academy. Lin Ling stated his purpose. Yes, the experience of the Martial God Barracks won't be of much help to you. You should go and see a stronger world. In fact, the Martial also has the same intention. However, if you want to leave the Martial God Barracks, you must convince others. Therefore, you must sound the war drums. I'll give you 3 years to prepare. Is that enough? Chapter 2363. How to leave the Martial God Barracks. Huangfu Yidao nodded as well. Unless you've served for a certain period of time in the Martial Gods Battalion, you'll have to sound the war drums and tell the soldiers that you're qualified to leave. This is the unchanging rule of the Martial Gods Battalion. Alright, I'll do it. Lin Ling nodded immediately. Don't agree too early. The war drum isn't that easy to sound. I can tell you that many people have tried to sound the war drum over the years, but only 5 of them succeeded. They left the Martial God Barracks with glory and retired temporarily. As for those who failed, they didn't sound the drum for 100 years. In the end, they cultivated in the Martial God Barracks for 1,000 years and met the requirements before they were qualified to leave. Moreover, after you sound the war drum, the Marshal will meet you personally. Hearing those words, Lin Ling smiled gratefully at the 3 old men, then nodded. Alright, let's not talk about this for now. Let's talk about the 8 Gods' Heavenly Palace. Lin Ling told them about the 8 Gods' Heavenly Palace. Of course, he didn't tell them about the Spacetime Divine Steel. No wonder the great Azure Divine Dynasty issued an imperial edict. They're very interested in that place. Unfortunately, the Flying Dragon Organization and the Heavenly Court are on the move this time. The great Azure Divine Dynasty doesn't dare to act rashly. The three great generals looked at each other. They were slightly more familiar with the Eight Gods' Heavenly Palace. The Flying Dragon Organization and the Heavenly Court were huge forces that spread across the 9 prefectures. The great Azure Divine Dynasty didn't dare to go against them easily. After chatting for a while, Lin Ling bid farewell and left. He wanted to catch up with Xian Yuan Gu, and the others. After Lin Ling left the demon-shattering mountain, the soldiers seemed to know that Lin Ling's rank had risen. They all saluted him respectfully. "Greetings, sir." When Lin Ling returned to the barracks, even Great Commander Huang Qi and the others saluted Lin Ling. Lin Ling was speechless. "My lord, if you have any mission, just give it to this humble one. This humble one will go through water and tread on fire without hesitation." Although Commander Huang Qi and the others sounded solemn, Lin Ling knew that they were just teasing him. "All right, hand over all your wine." Since the other party was teasing him, Lin Ling decided to go along with them. "Ah! My lord, don't be so cruel. Brother Lin Ling, I was just playing with you. Don't take it seriously." This time, Commander Huang Qi and the others were beaten back to their original state. They would rather have Lin Ling as a brother than have Lin Ling as a lord. After all, if Lin Ling was a lord, their wine would suffer. "Ha!" Lin Ling laughed heartily. In fact, although he had become a deputy general, he still regarded Commander Huang Qi and the others as his seniors. This was because their friendship was not something that could be replaced by a higher position. "I didn't expect this. In the past, in my heart, you were just a subordinate. Now, you have become our superior. After so many years in the martial god barracks, you are the fastest to get promoted." At this time, Qian Xianshan, who was standing beside him, exclaimed. In the past, he had fought with Lin Ling. In the end, Lin Ling had won by a narrow margin. However, Lin Ling's magnanimous character had convinced him. Qian Xianshan and Lin Ling shook hands and made peace. The two of them would fight again in the future. However, now, it seemed that it would be very difficult for him to catch up with Lin Ling. The others were stunned for a moment before they fell silent. To be honest, after hearing Qian Xuanshan's words, they realized that Lin Ling's growth was too fast. One had to know that geniuses from all over the world would need at least 100 years to gain a foothold in the martial god realm. This was the level of demonic geniuses. Some even needed 1,000 years or a lifetime. However, Lin Ling didn't even need 10 years. His progress was obviously faster than Commander Huang Qi and the others. "I was just lucky." Lin Ling noticed their surprise and smiled faintly. In fact, he wasn't very excited because in the past, Li Xiaoyao had gone further and soared higher. Moreover, his enemies were too strong. For example, the Heavenly Court and the Great Azure Divine Dynasty's secret enemy. All of these forced Lin Ling to become stronger. Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. Anyway, let's congratulate Lin Ling on his promotion. Falling Flower's flowing water sword saw that everyone was silent and tried to smooth things over. The others also congratulated Lin Ling one by one. I already knew that Lin Ling would definitely be promoted. When I first met him, I knew that he was extraordinary. Gong Yangjiang said casually. Tang Yue said disdainfully, speaking in hindsight, "Do you know how to read fortunes?" Hee, Princess Tang Yue, you have sharp eyes. I do know how to read people's faces. I didn't expect that other than throwing money, you also know how to boast. Tang Yue didn't believe him at all. The others were also smiling. This kind of lively atmosphere was rare in the martial god barracks. Many of you here will be promoted in the future. For example, Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword will definitely become a commander in less than 3 years. At this time, Lin Ling also joined in the fun. His words made Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword happy. Lin Ling's words were very trustworthy. Congratulations, congratulations. Lu Panyun, Lu Qingfeng and the others were happy for Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword. Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword must be powerful to be praised by Lord Lin Ling. Lord Lin Ling, what about me? Gong Yangjiang said, unwilling to be outdone. Lin Ling looked at him with a smile. Your path of growth is a little troublesome. At least 10 years ago, you had no achievements, and your strength didn't improve much. Therefore, you were depressed for the first half of your life. As for 10 years later. 10 years later, will I be able to amaze the world with my accumulated strength? Gong Yangjiang was a little excited. No, 10 years later, you will be used to being a passerby. Lin Ling shook his head. Gong Yangjiang was speechless. The rest of the people laughed out loud. That night, the scout camp was very lively. The martial god barracks was also in an uproar. Many soldiers in the barracks stared at the scout camp who reeked of alcohol with envy. The scout camp had a good leader. It was a pity that they didn't join the scout camp and missed out on a lot. Master, congratulations, congratulations. Sword Immortal Tsang Tian and the others were happy for Lin Ling. Lin Ling also rewarded them with some cultivation items to improve their strength. After that, Lin Ling looked at the lively scene and sighed. He thought of the people in his hometown. However, his enemies were still waiting for him. Therefore, he didn't have time to return to his hometown. After the lively banquet, the crowd gradually dispersed. In the barracks, Lin Ling looked at Xian Yuan Gu and smiled. Gu it wasn't easy for us to be together again. Xian Yuan Gu's little face was also full of emotions. It was indeed not easy for her and Lin Ling to be together until now. What are you looking at? You're making me blush. Although she missed it, Xian Yuan Gu was still a little shy when Lin Ling looked at her like that. You're so beautiful. Lin Ling smiled sincerely. Xian Yuan Gu was like a naughty little witch. That kind of temperament was extremely rare. Chapter 2364. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio. Flame ring under the night sky, I see. Then I won't say it in the future. Lin Ling nodded in realization. Xian Yuan Gu's beautiful eyes narrowed. You dare? I want you to say it. You have to say it to me every day, saying that I'm beautiful. Of course, don't say it when there are people around. It's so embarrassing. Hearing that, Lin Ling couldn't help but laugh. Xian Yuan Gu was still like a child. However, any woman liked to be praised. This was a principle that would never change. The only difference was who was praising her. Okay. I'll say it every day in the future. Lin Ling held Xian Yuan Gu's hand and said. Xian Yuan Gu sniffled, looking extremely cute. This is for you. Then, Lin Ling stretched out his right hand. Colorful flames floated out and formed the shape of a ring in midair. Xian Yuan Gu couldn't help but laugh. How beautiful. Lin Ling nodded because this was the spacetime fire. He planned to use the spacetime fire to improve Xian Yuan Gu's talent. The limit of the spacetime fire was the divine body level, but it needed to grow continuously. As for the spacetime divine steel, it was even more terrifying than the spacetime fire. It wasn't weaker than the desolate body level. In fact, the spacetime divine steel and myriad demonic eyes were both desolate body level. In the martial god realm, there were very few people with such talent. However, Lin Ling's current cultivation level was too low. He couldn't use the spacetime divine steel at will. He could only use it temporarily. As for the spacetime fire, Lin Ling could roughly control it. After all, no matter how powerful one's talent was, it needed a strong cultivation level to match it. Lin Ling, is this for me? Xian Yuan Gu looked up at Lin Ling. She was extremely touched. A ring was a symbol of love and also a form of recognition. It also meant that the marriage she had waited for thousands of generations had finally paid off. Okay. Lin Ling nodded solemnly and went down on one knee. In his hometown of Wuxia, giving a ring meant proposing. Thank you, what a beautiful ring. Xian Yuan Gu lowered her head and looked at Lin Ling. She stretched out her small hand, which was then held by Lin Ling. Then, Lin Ling gently put the precious ring on her finger. When the ring touched her small hand, it was a little hot. However, a mysterious power surged out from Lin Ling's body, causing the temperature of the ring to disappear. That's right, it was just warmth. Thank you. The moment the ring was put on, Xian Yuanji's eyes were filled with tears. At this moment, she really wanted to see the great demon king of the East. She wanted her father to be happy for her because her beloved man knelt down for her and put the ring on her finger. Chi! Chi! Almost at the same time, in the pitch-black night, resplendent flames soared into the sky, forming gorgeous fireworks. At this moment, many soldiers of the martial gods battalion were resting. When they noticed the fireworks, they walked out one after another. Their gazes were unsurprisingly fixed on the scout camp. They saw a man and a woman appear there, surrounded by gorgeous fireworks. It was as if they were the only two left in the world. So beautiful. Under the pitch-black night, the scene was extremely beautiful. Is that Xian Yuan Gu, Tang Yue looked into the distance enviously. She was a little excited. As expected of Sir Lin Ling. The others laughed and said. At the same time, the three elders from the Demon Break Mountain narrowed their eyes. That little fellow was truly reckless. He was expressing his love in the military camp. This was practically doing as he pleased. Did he not care about the military rules at all? Forget it. Let's just pretend that we didn't see it. Huangfu Yidao smiled bitterly and shook his head. He had long known that Lin Ling was a restless soldier. At this moment, under the eyes of tens of thousands of people, Lin Ling held Xian Yuan Gu's hand and looked at the starry sky. Gu, I'm sorry that I can't marry you in your hometown. But here, I'll let everyone know that you're my woman. Lin Ling said word by word. His handsome face was solemn. Thank you. Xian Yuan Gu was extremely emotional. She had thousands of words to say, but that was all she could say. After all, she also knew that the Martial Gods Battalion was a military camp. Lin Ling's actions were equivalent to disrupting the order. However, Lin Ling still dared to do so. This meant that Lin Ling didn't want to marry her secretly. He wanted to let everyone know that Xian Yuan Gu was his woman. Follow me. After that, Lin Ling held Xian Yuan Gu's hand and stepped into the air. Countless gazes looked at the young man and woman. They were even more envious, but they felt that the couple was a match made in heaven. The man was extraordinarily handsome, and the woman was as ethereal as an immortal. Gradually, the two of them disappeared into the silent night, leaving behind only the colorful fireworks. At this moment, Lin Ling and Xian Yuan Gu appeared in the chaotic universe. They slowly walked forward. It's so beautiful. Xian Yuan Gu looked at the starry sky and couldn't help but exclaim. It's very beautiful. In the future, I'll bring you and Yu and the others to tour this chaotic world. Lin Ling's lips curved into a smile. His words were filled with confidence. The two of them walked through one realm after another. As for the powerhouses in those realms, they were all frightened. This was because they could sense that the man and woman walking through the sky were very strong. They were like realm kings. In fact, with Lin Ling's current strength, he could indeed dominate a weak realm. Xian Yuan Gu liked this kind of peaceful time very much. Every woman had a dream to walk through the galaxy with their beloved man hand in hand until the end of time. And now, this dream had come true. Time quietly passed just like that. After an unknown period of time, two figures floated in the chaos of the universe. Xian Yuan Gu was refining the fires of time and space. As for Lin Ling, he was comprehending the profound sword record. Currently, Lin Ling's strength was enough to fight a fourth-stage world king. He had many cards in his hands. First, he had two dantians. One of them was a fire dantian. It was extremely fierce and his talent had reached the level of a 9th-grade profound body. Moreover, it could still grow. Second, he had the divine steel of time and space. This was the most terrifying aspect. Once the divine steel appeared, the fires of time and space could incinerate all things. Third, he had the divinity and demon body, the profound sword record, and his soul force. These were all Lin Ling's formidable methods. Moreover, if the chaos divine formula reached the second level, then Lin Ling would have 3 dantians. Just thinking of this was terrifying. Sword Void Ridge. In the void, Lin Ling's angry roar echoed out. He pointed his sword forwards. The power of vibration gushed out from the blade, drawing a line in front of Lin Ling. The second stroke of the profound character also appeared. This strange symbol emitted a blinding light. Then, a massive number of swords of light shot out, as if 10,000 swords were suspended in the air. This was the 6th level of the profound sword record, Sword Void Ridge. This was a group sword move. If one were to ride the sword, they would be able to kill enemies a world away. It was extremely sharp. This move had reached the middle 2nd grade level. After a long time, Lin Ling put away his sword and nodded. His strength had risen by around 30% again. First, he would have to constantly swallow fire attribute treasures to increase the level of the fires of time and space. Like this, his control over the space and space divine tablet would become even more formidable. Second, he would have to increase his divinity and demon body and soul force. He was well aware that once his essence, energy, and divine cultivation reached a new boundary, the chaos divine formula would reach the 3rd level and his strength would become even greater. Chapter 2365. The War God Battalion beneath the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. I never thought that Gu-er's talent in the fire attribute would be so good. Then, Lin Ling looked to the side. He saw that Xian Yuan Gu-er's entire body was covered in multicolored flames. She had clearly succeeded in refining it. After passing through space and time, one could burn through time and space. This was the characteristic of fire. Lin Ling could feel that the space around Xian Yuan Gu-er began to change. It began to twist and even time seemed to freeze. Then, Lin Ling didn't interrupt Xian Yuan Gu-er's cultivation. He began to perceive the profound sword record once more. Sword hanging in the air. 2 dazzling strokes appeared in the void. Then, 10,000 swords soared through the skies. Pang pang pang. In a distant place, some newly born worlds were directly pierced through by 10,000 swords. The strength of these swords was terrifying. It's time to return. After a long time, Lin Ling put away his swords, satisfied. At this time, within the 4th level of the World King realm, there weren't many people he feared. And at this time, the War God Battalion was still as lively as before. The soldiers were also cultivating every day. I have no idea where Lord Lin Ling has gone. He's disappeared for an entire year. Do your own thing. You don't need to worry about Lord Lin Ling. That's right, have you gone to sound the Heavens Inquisition war drum? I went last year but failed. I didn't even manage to sound 10 drums. Within the scout battalion, Falling Flowers, Flowing Water and the others were discussing. As long as one could sound the Heavens Inquisition war drum over 10 times, then they could retire from the War God Battalion. And this was an extremely glorious moment. The most important thing was that by sounding the war drum, one would obtain a spot to enter the 3 great academies. This was what all the genius commanders yearned for the most. Unfortunately, the war drum was too difficult to sound. So far, only 5 people had succeeded. Thus, all the geniuses present were helpless. In fact, the reason that the geniuses of all worlds came to the War God Battalion was because of the Heavens Inquisition war drum. It is difficult to enter the 3 great academies. If you want to obtain a spot, sounding the war drum is one of the methods. Continue to work hard. But, I heard that some people from the War God Battalion are coming. It seems they came for the Heavens Inquisition war drum. Is that possible? Falling Flowers, Flowing Water, Sword and the others once again began to discuss spiritedly. Maybe they're here to show off. Lu Qingfeng said indifferently. The others nodded. It was very possible. After all, everyone had witnessed the difficulty of the Martial God Battalion's battle drums. However, what if someone from the War God Battalion had sounded the drums? Then the Martial God Battalion would definitely lose face. Dong dong dong. At this moment, a military drum sounded. This kind of drumming, 3 long and 2 short, indicated that the military situation was very urgent. The army began to gather. Then, they realized that there was also an army coming from the distant sky. A majestic flag appeared. There were 3 large words embroidered on it, War God Battalion. As for that army, they were like dragons and tigers, and their auras were extremely imposing. Moreover, there were quite a few people from the younger generation. This is the Martial God Battalion? Look at those guys, their faces are sallow and their bodies are emaciated. They don't look like soldiers at all. They look more like refugees. At this moment, in the distant army, a man riding a giant yellow lightning tiger smiled faintly. This man was a deputy general. How dare you sow discord in the Martial God Battalion? You're disrupting the unity of our 2 battalions. On the ground, many commanders shouted angrily. The soldiers of the Martial God Battalion hurriedly stood up. They could not let the other party look down on them. What's your position? What's my position? Are you qualified to speak to me? Get lost. However, the man riding the tiger shouted angrily. In the military camp, one's position was strict. Apart from strength, one's military rank was also important. Those with a high military rank had the absolute right to suppress the weak. As expected, Commander Huang Qi and the others' expressions turned ugly. They remained silent. A bunch of trash. The man laughed disdainfully. Yo, Deputy General Huang Feihu, you're really arrogant. What's the point of bullying some soldiers? At this moment, a rolling war chariot came out from the Martial God Battalion. A man stood on top of it. It was Deputy General Hong Jing. Some soldiers don't know the rules, so I'm just giving you some pointers. The man riding the tiger smiled faintly. He was not as arrogant as before because Deputy General Hong Jing had the same status as him. He did not dare to underestimate him. We're here today to help you repair the Martial God Giants. Did the Martial God Battalion send some soldiers to welcome us? An old man in a Taoist robe spoke indifferently after the Martial God Battalion's army descended. His aura was like the might of the heavens. Every single move he made seemed capable of causing a myriad of worlds to explode. Moreover, he sat on a gorgeous war chariot. He seemed like a wise general, but his strength had clearly reached an unfathomable level. Deputy General Hong Jing and the others did not dare be disrespectful when they saw the old man. Because the old man was General Qing Hong. His strength and status were not something they could afford to offend. He, General Qing Hong, you've come from afar. Please excuse us for not welcoming you. At this moment, 3 old men finally walked out from the Martial God Battalion. Shockingly, they were the 3 great generals. I thought you wouldn't come out. You're really arrogant. The old man called General Qing Hong spoke indifferently. Even though they were from the same camp as the Martial God Battalion, they obviously did not get along well. Of course, this was normal. Every camp was their own king. How could they walk together so easily? Where's your Martial God giants? Are they ready? We've been ordered by the Marshal of the Martial God Battalion to repair them. Great General Qing Hong added. They had been ordered by the Marshal of the Martial God Battalion to help the Martial God Battalion repair the Martial God giants. Of course, they would definitely make things difficult for them during the process. The Martial God giants are ready. Huang Fuidao replied with a smile. He also knew that the other party would not easily repair the Martial God giants for them. Then, the Demon Destroyer General waved his hand and said, "Bring the Martial God giants here." The so-called Martial God giants were puppets made from materials from the 100 Worlds. Their combat strength was extremely shocking. A giant was comparable to a top true God realm expert. It was the symbol of the Martial God Battalion and was even more famous than the Martial God cannons. The Martial God giants of the Martial God Battalion were damaged, so the Great Green Divine Dynasty had asked the Martial God Battalion to help repair them. Even though they did not know why the Martial God Battalion was so confident in repairing it, since they dared to come, they must have some ability. While waiting, the 2 armies were silent. An oppressive atmosphere quietly drifted out. Suddenly, someone smiled faintly and said, "Qian Xianshan, get out here." Beside General Qing Hong, a young man holding a feather fan said faintly. This person was gentle and did not look like a soldier. However, in reality, he was indeed a soldier and his status was not low. He was the number 1 genius of the Martial God Battalion, Qian Taiji. He was from Tating Commandery. In Tating Commandery, his strength and reputation were only below the 9 heavenly sons in Qingzhou. His identity was the youngest deputy general of the Martial God Battalion and he was about to enter the 3 great colleges. How dare you? How dare you call him Commander Qian Xianshan? Seeing that the other party was young and arrogant, the Martial God Battalion immediately shouted angrily. As for Huang Fuidao and the other 2 generals, their expressions did not change. It was as if they did not care about such a small matter. In reality, they knew that the young man was not simple, given his arrogance. You are the ones who are bold. Is it your turn to interrupt when I'm speaking? Chapter 2366. The number 1 genius of the War God Battalion, Qian Taiji. Arrogant. They did not expect him to be so arrogant in front of the generals. Huang Fuidao and the other 2 generals frowned. However, when they saw that General Qing Hong did not speak, they did not speak either. After all, if they spoke, they would be bullying the young. Others would say that the War God Battalion had no talents. Deputy General, he is a Deputy General? Many people in the War God Battalion exclaimed. It's Qian Taiji. Tang Yue said with a frown. Apparently, the falling flowers and flowing water sword recognized him. Didn't he go to the 3 academies? D by Mo asked in surprise. What? He is qualified to go to the 3 academies? More people exclaimed. No wonder Qian Taiji was so arrogant. It turned out that he had a powerful background. After all, those who could enter the 3 academies were people they could only look up to. Commander, the great commander and the others are not qualified to speak. Then, I am qualified to speak. However, at this moment, Deputy General Hong Jing stepped forward. He could not allow Qian Taiji to be so arrogant. Ho ho, your position is the same as mine. You are qualified to speak. However, you are much older than me. It is embarrassing for you to come out and confront me. Qian Taiji said, shaking his head. Deputy General Hong Jing did not know what to say because Qian Taiji's words made sense. Even so, you are not qualified to order our Qian Xianshan. Deputy General Hong Jing said. I am not qualified in the War God Battalion. However, am I qualified in Tating Commandery? Qian Taiji laughed and looked at the War God Battalion's army with contempt. He said, Qian Xianshan, come out. He was from Tating Commandery and so was Qian Xianshan. Therefore, he was qualified. After all, this was their family matter. As expected, Deputy General Hong Jing and the others could not refute him. They were so angry that their faces turned pale. As for Huang Fuidao and the other 2 generals, although they looked calm, they were also angry. At this moment, Qian Xianshan stepped forward. He looked terrible. He was from Tating Commandery and his status was not as high as Qian Taiji's. After all, Qian Taiji was one of the 9 heavens in Qingzhou. Therefore, he had to step forward. Kneel down. Qian Taiji looked at him coldly and said, don't forget that Tating Commandery trained you to be where you are today. Now you have failed to do what Tating Commandery wants you to do. Tell me, what's the use of you? This is my fault. If you want to kill me, do as you please. Qian Xianshan wore a cold expression and dropped to his knees. He was not kneeling in Qiantaichi, but in Tating Commandery. After all, that was his motherland. As for why Tating Commandery wanted to punish him, he knew that it was because he failed to kill Lin Ling. Men, beat him up. Qian Taichi snorted and waved his hand. A soldier from the God of War Battalion walked out and waved his whip at Qian Xianshan. Commander Qian Xianshan, please excuse me. They even said lazily. After all, they were just small soldiers. But now, they could fight against a senior commander. This was also a great honor. To be beaten in front of 2 armies, this is a great loss of face. Laughter erupted from the War God Battalion. Whack! 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 Qian Xianshan gritted his teeth and said, although I failed to complete the task, I did not show mercy to my enemy. Therefore, I did not disappoint Tating Commandery. Qian Xianshan said. No one knew what task Tating Commandery had given him. However, Qian Taiji knew that it was to kill Lin Ling. However, Qian Xianshan admitted that he had not shown mercy to Lin Ling. In the previous battle, he had tried his best and almost died together with Lin Ling. Therefore, he had a clear conscience. A failure is a failure. Since you have not killed the person you wanted to kill, why are you still alive? Today, on behalf of Tating Commandery, I will beat you to death. Qian Taiji looked at Qian Xianshan with disdain. His words shocked the soldiers of the War God Battalion. Killing Qian Xianshan in front of the army? This is too cruel. However, although they were unwilling, no one dared to say anything. They could only watch helplessly. Even the 3 great generals could not intervene in this matter because it was a matter of Tating Commandery. Qian Taiji was in high spirits as if he was in charge of everything. He said, I heard that there is a genius called Lin Ling in the War God Battalion. Why haven't I seen him today? Could it be that he died outside while on a mission? What nonsense are you talking about? Deputy General Hong Jing glared at Qian Taiji when he heard his arrogant words. He could not help Qian Xianshan if Qian Taiji wanted to kill him. However, Lin Ling was not from Tating Commandery, so Qian Xianchen could not be so arrogant. "Oh, why are you so agitated? It is said that Lin Ling is the #1 genius in the War God Battalion. He has become a commander at a young age. I don't know if there is any exaggeration. In my opinion, he might be a piece of trash," Qian Taiji said unscrupulously. He had heard of Lin Ling. It was said that Lin Ling had destroyed their branch family and killed young Master Qian Xianchen. He was an enemy of Tating Commandery. General Qinghong, who was not far away, smiled. He had also heard of Lin Ling's name. However, he did not think that Lin Ling was comparable to the #1 genius of the War God Battalion, Qian Taiji. "Qian Taiji, don't be too arrogant. Be careful of your words." The anger on Deputy General Hong Jing's face grew stronger and stronger. "Am I talking about you? I am talking about Lin Ling. Lin Ling is a piece of trash. He is not qualified for me to get into trouble." Qian Taiji smiled disdainfully. He looked at Qian Xianchen and said, "Beat him up. Kill him in front of them. Fierce. Fierce." His aura was extremely fierce. However, at this moment, a streamer shot down from the sky. Then, two figures appeared in front of everyone. It was a man and a woman. The man's long hair was tied behind his head, and he wore a black robe. He seemed to be in high spirits. The woman wore a black dress, and she was so beautiful that she was captivating. Their harmonious beauty attracted the gazes of countless people, and many people felt that they were a perfect match for each other. However, after their initial shock, many people from the Martial God Battalion were delighted because Lord Lin Ling had returned. "Beautiful. Wow." Qian Taiji looked at the woman in the sky and licked his lips. At this moment, Lin Ling looked coldly at the scene below. Then, he walked down and walked toward Qian Taiji. "Who is this soldier of yours? Is that your wife? Not bad. I will take her away later." "Wow." Qian Taiji looked at Lin Ling and said while waving his fan. Hearing this, the soldiers of the War God Battalion were shocked. This guy could be arrogant in front of Qian Xianchen. However, he dared to be arrogant in front of Lin Ling? Is he looking for death? Sure enough, Lin Ling's eyes became even colder. He stopped in front of Qian Taiji. Qian Taiji also noticed that the person in front of him was not afraid of him. He raised his chin and stared at the person. He wanted to know what this soldier wanted to say. "Who the fuck are you? Fuck." However, in the next moment, Lin Ling slapped him. It was a thunderous attack. Slap. Chapter 2367. The rebirth of Qian Xuanchen. Seeing this, the soldiers of the God of War Battalion trembled violently. Who is this guy? He is even more arrogant than Qian Taiji. He dares to attack in front of the great general. Even Huang Fuidao and the others were surprised. Lin Ling is back. His attack is earth-shattering. On the ground, Qian Taiji was humiliated after he fell. He shouted angrily, "How dare you offend me? Kill him. Kill him just like Qian Xianchen. Kill." But can he kill him? Before he could finish speaking, Lin Ling rushed over and stepped on his body, which had just crawled up, once again. Bang! The sound was loud. The power of that kick was terrifying. Puff! Qian Taiji spat out blood and saw stars. He was like a dog being stepped on. Lin Ling even stepped on his face and rubbed it hard. This humiliation made the God of War Battalion silent. Many soldiers clenched their fists in anger. How dare you offend your comrades? Today, I will kill this insolent ant on behalf of the God of War Battalion. Kill. General Qinghong couldn't stand it anymore and gave the order to kill. General Qinghong, calm down. That's our deputy general, Lin Ling. Kill. However, General Qinghong was stunned by Huang Fuidao's voice. That guy is also a deputy general? And he's Lin Ling? As far as he knew, Lin Ling was only a great general. He couldn't do anything now. Just like the three great generals, he would be accused of bullying the weak. At this moment, Lin Ling was still stepping on Qian Taiji. He glared at him and said, "You and I are both deputy generals, but you keep calling me trash, insulting your comrades and sowing discord. I won't forgive you today." He saw what happened to Qian Xianshan, so he was furious. Qian Xianshan came to kill Lin Ling in the past, but he was honest. He didn't go easy on Lin Ling and fought with his life. This made Lin Ling recognize him. This was a real man. But now, this indomitable man was about to be killed. Lin Ling could not swallow this anger. "If you let me go, I will let Qian Xianshan go." Qian Taichi couldn't resist at all. He immediately knew that Lin Ling's strength was more powerful than he imagined. He also knew that Lin Ling's status was not lower than his. Previously, he had insulted Lin Ling, and based on this, Lin Ling could make a move against him. Of course, if his strength was stronger than Lin Ling, then the one who would lose face would be Lin Ling. Unfortunately, his strength was inferior to Lin Ling. "Alright, I promise you, I'll kill him for you." Lin Ling retracted his foot and walked towards Qian Xianshan step by step. When he arrived in front of the ladder, his hands quickly pointed out. Puff! Puff! Qian Xianshan's body trembled as blood spurted out from his body. However, he looked at Lin Ling and smiled. Eventually, he fell down. Everyone was shocked when they saw this. Lin Ling had really killed Qian Xianshan. As for Qian Taichi, he also got up. He was in a sorry state. However, when he saw Lin Ling's actions, he did not say anything. That was because he had come here to kill Qian Xianshan. Lin Ling had killed Qian Xianshan, which was exactly what he wanted. Isn't Lin Ling the commander? When did he become a deputy general? Also, why is he so powerful? However, when Qian Taichi thought of being slapped to the ground, he was furious. He was the #1 genius of the War God Battalion, and Lin Ling was also the #1 genius of the War God Battalion. It was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. "Trash, is he dead?" At this time, Lin Ling's cold voice rang out. He said that Qian Taichi was trash. Of course, in Lin Ling's heart, Qian Taichi was indeed trash. The sun bone of Tating Commandery was still a figure. Dead, he is indeed dead. Lin Ling, you have killed Qian Xianshan. Tating Commandery will not let you go. Qian Taichi's face darkened. Lin Ling had called him trash, but he could not refute it. After all, everyone had seen that his strength was not as good as Lin Ling's. "Don't falsely accuse me. Even if I didn't kill him, you would have killed him," Lin Ling said coldly. "Humph, he has been killed by you. Everyone knows that. Although I have promised you that you could kill him, Tating Commandery will not." Qian Taichi sneered. "Are you sure he is really dead?" However, Lin Ling suddenly smiled. His smile was evil and gave Qian Taichi a bad feeling. He stared at the dead Qian Xianshan and realized that Qian Xianshan was indeed dead. For a moment, he did not understand what Lin Ling meant. Even General Qinghong was confused. He did not understand why Lin Ling had asked that question. "Of course." Qian Taichi nodded and said. "That's good. Today, Commander Qian Xianshan is dead. A new Qian Xianshan has been born." Lin Ling walked towards Qian Xianshan step by step. His hands moved like butterflies as he kept pointing at Qian Xianshan. Qian Xianshan's body trembled. Gradually, his fingers moved and he slowly stood up. His face was filled with disbelief. Previously, when Lin Ling wanted to kill him, he did not fight back. That was because he was willing to die in Lin Ling's hands. But now, he had come back to life. What is going on? I sensed that Xiaofan was dead. Even his soul was shattered. How could he come back to life? Did I see it wrong? The two armies also let out cries of surprise, as if they had seen a miracle. Is this the legendary 9 Deaths finger skill? The eyes of the generals on both sides trembled violently. Xiaofan's resurrection, coupled with Lin Ling's mysterious finger technique, made them think of the legendary mysterious technique. The so-called 9 Deaths finger skill meant that one would die 9 times. After each death, one's strength would increase greatly. Of course, if one did not come back to life after death, he would be dead forever. This was a very extreme cultivation method. They had heard of such a cruel skill before. However, they had never thought that Lin Ling would know such a skill. That was why they were sure that Xiaofan was dead. That's right. This is indeed the 9 Deaths finger skill. Seeing that everyone was shocked, Lin Ling did not hide anything. Then, he looked at Xiaofan and said, "Now that you have the 9 Deaths genuine qi, it means that you can only practice this skill. After experiencing 9 deaths, you will be reborn. Are you willing?" "Yes," Xiaofan said excitedly. Although this skill was dangerous, at least he had come back to life. It was all worth it. Moreover, the effect of the 9 Deaths finger skill was great. He sensed that he was about to break through. "I will teach you the rest of the finger skills. In the future, you will change your surname to Lin. Are you willing?" Lin Ling said again. If Xiaofan changed his surname, it meant that he was no longer a citizen of Tating Commandery. Xiaofan glanced at Qian Taiji and sneered. He nodded immediately and said, "I am willing." Previously, he had already died. He had repaid the debt he owed to Tating Commandery. Now, he was a new student and his name was Lin Xiaofan. Good. Lin Ling could not help but smile. It was a smile of satisfaction. Chapter 2368. Repairing the martial god giant, Xiaofan, how dare you? On the other side, Qian Taiji was furious as if he had been fooled. He knew what had happened. This meant that Xiaofan had nothing to do with Tating Prefecture anymore. "Sir Qian Taiji, my name is Lin Xiaofan. Please don't call me by the wrong name." Unfortunately, Xiaofan looked at Qian Taiji with disdain. He no longer regarded Qian Taiji as his superior. "Shut up. You were sure that he was dead. Now, he is not Xiaofan but Lin Xiaofan. Try to touch him in front of me. I will make sure you can't leave the martial gods battalion." Lin Ling shouted angrily as he stared at Qian Taiji coldly like a ferocious tiger. Everyone in the martial gods battalion knew that he was protective of his men. If Qian Taiji dared to touch his men, Lin Ling would dare to touch Qian Taiji. "You can try." The soldiers of the martial gods battalion also began to roar. Their blood was boiling, and all the gloominess from before was spat out. Huang Fuidao and the other 2 generals could not touch Qian Taiji because of their status. However, it was the right time for Lin Ling to do so. Lin Ling's status was not lower than Qian Taiji's and he was more powerful. There was no need to fear him. "You." Qian Taiji had not expected things to turn out this way. General Qinghong's face darkened. However, he could not do anything. He was disappointed in Qian Taiji. Boom. 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 At this moment, a deafening sound was heard. A large number of soldiers pulled a giant over. At a closer look, it was a giant that was a few hundred meters tall. The giant was like a bronze giant. Its bronze color lit up the area and it was extremely powerful. It was the martial god giant. Lin Ling stared at the giant in surprise and muttered to himself, "A puppet? Puppet." He could see that the giant was a puppet. In fact, it was also a weapon. However, the requirement of the enchantment was very strict and the materials used to make it were rare. Therefore, very few people could own a puppet. He did not expect the martial gods battalion to have such a strong foundation. First, they had the martial god cannon, then the martial god giant. Martial god giant, I've brought you the martial god giant. At this moment, Huang Fuidao also spoke. Repairing the puppets required a world boundary master. The martial god barracks was a military barracks, so the weapons they needed were all provided by the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. Naturally, there were no world boundary masters. In reality, world spiritist status was extremely high. Even in the Great Azure Divine Dynasty, they were highly respected existences. So, even if the martial god battalion wanted to invite a world spiritist, they might not be able to. Especially the boundary master above the blue robe, it was even harder to invite them out of the mountain. Don't fix it. However, at this moment, Qian Taiji suddenly said coldly. The eyes of everyone from the martial god battalion narrowed when they heard this. The expressions of the three great generals changed as well. They had brought the giant martial god out, yet he said that he would not repair it? What a joke! A soldier's word carries enormous weight. General Qinghong, what do you mean by this? The demon destroyer great general frowned. Anger could be seen on his face. We were ordered by the marshal to repair the martial god giant, and the order should have come from the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. However, our boundary masters don't want to repair it, so we can't do anything about it. General Green Rainbow said indifferently, maybe you guys were too arrogant before, causing the world spiritist to be very unhappy. Clearly, he was blaming Lin Ling. Let me tell you, I invited that world spiritist from the ancient city of everlasting desolation. He is my master. If I say I won't repair it, then I won't repair it. Qian Taiji's words were extremely shocking. No wonder he was so arrogant. So that world spiritist was his master. You guys are too excessive. The three great generals spoke at the same time. Was he toying with them? If it wasn't for the fact that they needed a green robe world spiritist to repair the puppet, they wouldn't have begged him even if they were beaten to death. Although they were profound in the martial path, in terms of world spiritists, they were only black robes. They could barely be considered world spiritists. Humph. If you want to blame someone, blame yourselves for not knowing how to treat guests. Of course, if you are unhappy, then go to the Great Azure Divine Dynasty and ask for permission. Have them invite someone else. Qian Taiji said indifferently. On the martial god battalion side, a middle-aged man slowly walked out. It seemed to be that world spiritist. His strength couldn't be compared to the three great generals, but with world spiritists, his position was not weak. My time is limited. If it wasn't for the Great Azure Divine Dynasty asking me to help, I definitely wouldn't have come. If there's anything right now, say it immediately. Don't waste my time. After the middle-aged man walked out, he narrowed his eyes and spoke. He didn't even look at the crowd and had an arrogant expression on his face. However, no one felt he was arrogant because the weapons of martial artists all came from world spiritists. So, unless there was a huge benefit involved, no one would rashly provoke a world spiritist. He's from the ancient city of everlasting desolation. At that moment, in the martial god battalion, Gong Yangjiang, Teng Yue and the others narrowed their eyes. Especially after seeing the middle-aged man, Gong Yangjiang's pupils contracted. In the past, when he first met Lin Ling, it was in the 100 Knowings market of the ancient city of everlasting desolation. At that time, Lin Ling had accepted a mission and was then made difficult by a world spiritist. That world spiritist seemed to be the person in front of him, called Feng Wuhan. Later, Ancestor Longpo appeared and taught Feng Wuhan a lesson. Moreover, Ancestor Longpo's relationship with Lin Ling was extremely good. Then, Gong Yangjiang and Tang Yue glanced at each other, their expressions a bit strange. Even Lin Ling recognized that person. At that time, he was handing in the Star Sea Heavenly Zither's mission. The middle-aged man in front of him made things difficult for him, and later, he let him eat the mission slip. However, that guy was very respectful towards Ancestor Longpo. His spirit formation strength was inferior to Ancestor Longpo's. Master, they knew you were coming, yet they still dared to neglect you. Especially that young man, he's too much. At that moment, Qian Taichi pointed at Lin Ling and said. Feng Wuhan, who was beside him, narrowed his eyes and didn't even look at Lin Ling. In my opinion, the Martial God Battalion should apologize. Otherwise, we won't repair this giant martial god. Master, am I right? Qian Taichi said again. I haven't accepted you as my disciple yet, so don't be too full of yourself. However, your words are reasonable. Let them apologize. Feng Wuhan crossed his arms and closed his eyes as he rested. Hearing those words, Qian Taichi immediately became complacent. With a sneer on his face, he looked at the people from the Martial God Battalion. Did you hear that? Everyone must apologize. That guy called Lin Ling must kneel. Otherwise, our Martial God Battalion will return home. Intolerable bullying. Hearing those words, the people from the Martial God Battalion were all secretly furious. The three great generals were so furious that their lungs were about to explode. If it wasn't for the great Azure God dynasty suppressing them, they would have already killed that arrogant brat. Although they were above tens of thousands of people, they were still soldiers. As soldiers, it was their duty to obey orders. So, without orders, they didn't dare to casually start a war with the Martial God Battalion. And today, if they didn't repair the giant martial god, they would be delaying military intelligence. Their crime would not be small. But, were they really going to apologize? That hateful brat was simply intolerable bullying. Make him kneel first. Chapter 2369. 3 times is enough, Your Excellency. It's best not to be overbearing. Huang Fuidao said. If you don't agree, then we'll leave. However, the martial god giants haven't been repaired yet. If there's a battle and the martial god giants can't move, then you'll be delaying the military situation. If the great Azure Divine Dynasty blames you, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Qian Taiji said as he waved the feather fan in his hand. He was pressuring the generals. In reality, he didn't dare to be too arrogant. However, to be able to see Lin Ling kneel was enough. Get lost, brat. Don't let me see you alone. Otherwise, I'll definitely kill you. You want my people to kneel now? All of you, scram. Seeing Qian Taiji's impudence, the Demon Destroyer General couldn't bear it anymore and directly chased them away. A warrior would rather be killed than humiliated. Of course, the Martial God Battalion soldiers were the same. Their eyes were all red. On the other side, General Qinghong sneered. Then let's go. What's the big deal? He'd like to see how the Martial God Battalion would answer to the great Azure Divine Dynasty. As he thought of that, he wanted to leave with his army. However, at that moment, a lazy voice sounded. It was Feng Wuhan. You're all from the great Azure Divine Dynasty's army. I don't have time to care about the matters between you. I also don't have time to watch you quarrel. Now, is anyone kneeling? If not, I'll leave. At that moment, Feng Wuhan finally opened his eyes. His expression was extremely impatient. However, when his gaze swept across the crowd and landed on Lin Ling, his eyes narrowed. That black-robed youth seemed somewhat familiar. Compared to his surprise, Lin Ling's expression was very cold. He didn't expect Qian Taiji to be so excessive. He said indifferently, "Looks like you didn't eat enough paper last time. Now, let's see if it's me kneeling or you kneeling." His voice turned cold. Everyone who knew him knew that Lin Ling was a little angry at this moment. However, his words undoubtedly stunned the people from the Martial God Battalion. Deputy General Lin Ling was still so arrogant at this time. He was courting death. He was definitely courting death. Great, you even dare to provoke the world spiritist invited by the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. Martial Gods Battalion, oh Martial Gods Battalion, are you trying to rebel? Master, don't bother with these people, they will regret it. Qian Taiji definitely wouldn't miss such an opportunity. He flattered him while reprimanding him. Unfortunately, he did not see that Wind Without Trace's face had become distorted. There was even fear and panic. If he remembered correctly, that brat had once caused him to suffer a great loss. After that, he found out that the ancestor dragon Granny had set her eyes on that brat, and had even invited him to the 3 great academies. The ancestor dragon Granny was not only someone from the 3 great academies, she was also a powerful world spiritist. How could he provoke someone she had set her eyes on? Taking a step back, the mission list of that brat from back then still made him feel amazed. That brat seemed to be a world spiritist too. Kneel down now. Feng Wuhan said quickly. His tone was anxious, but Qian Taichi couldn't help but laugh. He didn't expect his master to be angry. Lin Ling was going to suffer. However, just as he was about to speak, a palm suddenly slapped him on the back of his head, knocking him to the ground. Kneel down right now. With a bang, Qian Taichi was smashed to the ground. His face was filled with disbelief. His master was angry, but was he venting his anger on him? Seeing that, the soldiers of the 2 armies opened their mouths wide. Master, what are you doing? Master. Qian Taichi felt extremely wronged as he whispered. However, Wind Without Trace completely ignored him. He jogged to Lin Ling, bowed respectfully and said, "So Senior is here. Please don't blame me for not noticing Senior here." Master. He bowed deeply and saluted. This. Master. The 2 armies were silent. Even some of the soldiers holding the flags dropped them to the ground in shock. At that moment, even the warhorses didn't dare to make a sound. Although Wind Without Trace cultivation wasn't high, because of his identity as a world spiritist, he didn't even put a general in his eyes. But now, this insufferably arrogant green-robed world spiritist was currying favor with Lin Ling like a pug. Moreover, he was even calling Lin Ling Senior. This was simply an endless night's talk. Lin Ling's expression didn't change. He was still indifferent. Your disciple seemed to be very arrogant earlier. Huh? My disciple? Huh? Wind Without Trace's expression changed drastically. He took a step forward and arrived in front of Qian Taichi. He slapped him again. Who gave you the courage to call me your master? I don't have a disciple like you. Get lost. Scram. Master, you? Scram. Qian Taichi was smashed to the ground again. He was even more confused. Because of Lin Ling's words, he couldn't become Wind Without Trace's disciple. One must know that a world spiritist must be brought in by a master. Wind Without Trace was a green-robed world spiritist recognized by the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. Not only was it beneficial for him, but it was also beneficial for Tating Commandery. He had even boasted in Tating Commandery that he had already become Wind Without Trace's disciple. At that time, the entire commandery was congratulating him. His father was also proud. Now that he was chased away, how could he report back? He would probably be laughed at to death. Master, give me another chance. Yes. Qian Taichi quickly got up and grabbed Wind Without Trace's leg. Bang! However, Wind Without Trace sent him flying with a kick. He cut off all ties and said straightforwardly, "Get lost. It's fine if you want to die, but don't drag me down. If you come closer to me, I'll kill you." Yes. Hearing Wind Without Trace's ruthless words, both armies were dumbfounded. The four generals also stared at Lin Ling. They felt that it was earth-shattering. You were very arrogant before. You actually wanted our martial god battalion to bow. However, Lin Ling's expression was still cold. Senior, I didn't recognize you. As the saying goes, the ignorant are not guilty. Wind Without Trace said with a terrified expression. Then, he ruthlessly slapped himself a few times. Look at my eyes. I really deserve to be hit. I'll hit, hit. Yes. He knew very well that as long as he still wanted to cultivate as a world spiritist, he couldn't offend Ancestor Dragon Granny. Therefore, he couldn't afford to offend this young man. Slap. 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 The crisp slaps were even louder than the war drums, causing the martial god battalion to be speechless. They felt as if they were dreaming. As for Huang Fuidao and the other two generals, they were all stunned. Although they knew that Lin Ling was very mysterious, making a green-robed world spiritist slap his own face and flatter him like a dog was not something that could be done with strength. Something must have happened between them, which caused Wind Without Trace to be very afraid of Lin Ling. However, the world spiritist who was arrogant and had his eyes above his head was now slapping his own face. This scene made them feel that it was very unreal. Senior, the ignorant are not guilty. Look at the martial god giant. I'll repair it for you for free. Slap. Wind Without Trace carefully looked at Lin Ling. He was afraid that Lin Ling was still angry. Do I need your help? Slap. However, Lin Ling's expression was still not good. This little guy. The hearts of Huang Fuidao and the others fiercely trembled. Right now, Lin Ling could completely let him repair the martial god giant, but who knew that Lin Ling would actually disdain him? Moreover, his tone was still cold. Subconsciously, they were also afraid that Wind Without Trace would be angered and leave. After all, an arrogant attitude could be used once, but it couldn't be used thrice. Chapter 2370. Translator, Nyoibo Studio. See the guests out. Master Feng Wuhan, this brat is too arrogant. He's not giving you any face at all. At this moment, Qian Taichi got up. He hated Lin Ling to the bone. However, he believed that Master Feng Wuhan had been bewitched by Lin Ling. If Lin Ling continued to neglect him, he would definitely offend Master Feng Wuhan. Grandmaster Feng Wuhan, you might have mistaken him for someone else. This kid has never even been to the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. He's not as powerful as you think. Green Rainbow General also opened his mouth to speak. At this moment, he was certain that Feng Wuhan had definitely mistaken him for someone else. Don't listen to their nonsense. Grandmaster Feng Wuhan, please take action. Huang Fuidao and the others hurriedly said. They were afraid that Feng Wuhan would be so dissension. If that happened, it would be over. Voices rang out one after another. However, Feng Wuhan's expression was indifferent and he did not say a word. Earlier, when Lin Ling refused to let him repair the martial god giant, he was indeed very anxious. However, he suddenly recalled what had happened in the everlasting market, and now, he suddenly understood. I won't repair the giant martial god. Feng Wuhan said calmly. What? Why don't you fix it? The expressions of Huang Fuidao and the others changed dramatically. It seemed that Lin Ling had thoroughly angered Feng Wuhan. Grandmaster Feng Wuhan, it seems like you've understood. I was just talking about a small soldier. How could a grandmaster like you bow to him personally? Grandmaster must have mistaken me for someone else. General Qinghong couldn't help but laugh. Qianteiqi was also elated and almost roared at the sky. Previously, he had been utterly humiliated, but now, Master Feng Wuhan had finally changed his mind. He wanted to see what Lin Ling would say next. After Huang Fuidao and the others sighed, they started to look for Lin Ling. If there weren't so many people here, they would have told Lin Ling that Lin Ling should have been more polite. I didn't repair it because Senior has already done it. However, just as their gazes moved, Grandmaster Feng Wuhan spoke. His words were like thunder, silencing the entire army. The truth was that Feng Wuhan had come to a sudden realization because he knew that Lin Ling didn't need him to repair the martial god giant, because Lin Ling could do it himself. At practically the same time, numerous gazes started to search for Lin Ling. Only then did they notice that Lin Ling had arrived before the martial god giant. His hands moved repeatedly, causing numerous mysterious barriers to float out and be slapped onto the martial god giant. Ka ka ka. The giant who had fallen to the ground slowly got up. That terrifying aura caused the two armies to fall into silence. That guy knows how to use spirit formations. Huang Fuidao and the others were so shocked that they almost fell to the ground. One must know that in the martial god battalion, there were actually many people who knew spirit formations. However, they only knew a little about it. At most, they would only be able to use black cloak or white cloak. It was already very good to be able to use blue cloak. Therefore, they had sought the help of Wind Without Trace because he was a green robe. As the saying went, if a robe was less than blue, then calling oneself a boundary master would be futile. Only green-robed world spiritist would be able to enter the eyes of the various powers. Yet now, their martial god battalion had actually concealed a green-robed world spiritist. That boy is so young, how could he be a green-robed world spiritist? That great General Cyan Rainbow also cried out in alarm. However, that was not the end of it. Strands of multicolored flames floated out dazzlingly. Chi. Once the flames appeared, the martial god giant's left leg began to burn. There was a scar there. This time, the flames were used to heal the wound on the left leg. With the burning of the flames and the numerous mysterious barriers, the wound on the left leg rapidly healed. What sort of flames are those? This time, even Wind Without Trace was astonished. He had guessed that the mysterious youth would definitely have some ability. However, he had never imagined that the youth would actually possess such flames. After all, the majority of world spiritists were fire, lightning and light attribute world spiritists. Using those talents to forge spirit formations would allow them to achieve twice the results with half the effort. As for that mysterious youth, he was clearly a fire attribute world spiritist. However, the mysteriousness of his flames caused even Wind Without Trace to feel extremely envious. At that moment, Wind Without Trace was clearly unnecessary. There was no need for him to personally take care of the martial god giant. The two armies stared at the black-robed youth. At that moment, the youth was like a dazzling star that emitted boundless radiance. Falling flowers, flowing water and the others were secretly excited. It seemed that they had still underestimated their lord's mysteriousness. It's done. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling's voice floated out. It's done. The two armies spoke at the same time. So fast? They had thought that the restoration would take at least 3 months. However, only an incense stick's worth of time had passed. Senior, is it really done? Wind Without Trace flew over and exclaimed in disbelief. It's just a puppet. How much time do you want to waste? I don't have that much time. Lin Ling said indifferently. His skill in forging spirit formations was extremely high. He had always been lacking in materials. This time, it was just restoration and not forging. How much time would he need to waste? Most importantly, he possessed the spacetime flame. The restoration process was 100 times faster. The spacetime flame was capable of burning time and space. It naturally had the ability to shorten the time required during the forging process. Even if that's the case, it's still too fast. Wind Without Trace looked at Lin Ling dumbfoundedly. Then, under countless gazes, he knelt down and said, "Master, please accept me as your disciple." When he knelt down, the two armies almost knelt down as well. They knelt down in shock. Was this still the arrogant green-robed spirit formation master from before? Moreover, he had come today to restore the martial god giant. He had even come to acknowledge him as his master. As for Qian Taichi, his mouth was wide open. He could not make any sound. He was proud to be able to acknowledge Master Wind Without Trace. However, Master Wind Without Trace had rejected him and instead acknowledged Lin Ling as his master. Then, what was he? He was Lin Ling's grand disciple. No, he could not even be considered Lin Ling's grand disciple. Good, good, good. That's great. After the shock, Huang Fuidao and the other two old men shouted excitedly. They had never thought that the boy was also a spirit formation master. They had found out too late. They were even more curious about Lin Ling. After all, Lin Ling's cultivation speed was fast, and his comprehension of martial techniques was not weak. However, he also knew how to use spirit formations. Could it be that he had 3 heads and 6 arms? He had reached the point of perfection in every field. General Qinghong, I'm sorry for making you come here in vain. Now, send the guests out. Then, Huang Fuidao looked at General Qinghong and said. Earlier, they had swallowed their anger, but now, they could hold their heads high. Send the guests out. The soldiers of the Martial God Battalion also let out cheerful voices. They had been displeased with the Martial God Battalion for a long time. Huh, you came from afar and didn't even drink a sip of water. Our Martial God Battalion has neglected our guests. Who told them to be trash? We invited them to restore the Martial God Giant, but they failed. How could they have the nerve to stay? That's right. Our Lord Lin Ling is still the best. The soldiers all waved their fists. Without a doubt, the soldiers of the Martial God Battalion were so angry that their lungs were about to explode. Chapter 2371. Inquiring Heaven War Drum. Hold on, I want to go to the Inquiring Heaven War Drum. Qian Taichi shouted angrily. He had been humiliated repeatedly today, and he couldn't take it lying down. Moreover, if he went back with his tail between his legs, the soldiers of the God of War Battalion would definitely blame him. That's right, the Marshal of the God of War Battalion has agreed to let us go to the Inquiring Heaven War Drum. General Qinghong also didn't want to leave like a stray dog. Huang Fuidao and the rest had indeed received the order, and they nodded immediately. They naturally couldn't disobey the Marshal's order. You're Lin Ling, right? Do you dare to play with the God of War Battalion? Let's see who can beat the drum better. Qian Taichi stared at Lin Ling as if he wanted to kill Lin Ling. Why are you shouting so loudly? Do you think you can win by shouting loudly? Or are you a toad who wants others to notice you, so you croak? How embarrassing. How can you call yourself the #1 genius of the God of War Battalion? The youngest deputy general? Is there no one else in the God of War Battalion? You found a toad to be your deputy general. Humph. Lin Ling retorted. He was extremely unhappy with Qian Taichi. I think there's no one else in the God of War battalion, but they found a toad to be their deputy general. In fact, I think a frog is more suitable. Humph. A lot of mocking laughter came from the God of War battalion. The God of War battalion trembled in anger, but they couldn't refute. Don't try to talk back. Humph. Of course, the angriest one was undoubtedly Qian Taichi. He tore off a large number of feathers from the feather fan in his hand. He was seething with anger. In fact, his strength and status weren't weak. Unfortunately, he met Lin Ling otherwise, he could still be a little arrogant. You're angry just because someone else said something. You'd better not be a deputy general. Humph. However, Lin Ling replied indifferently. Many people in the War God battalion nodded in agreement. Lin Ling and Qian Taichi were both the #1 geniuses in the battalion. However, it was clear who was more dazzling. I say, Lord Qian Taishu, stop tearing your fan. You've already plucked out all the feathers. You should calm down. Even falling flowers flowing water sword teased him. You. At this moment, Shantayoshi was suppressing his anger. His face was round. Go to the heaven inquiring war drum. General Green Rainbow also felt that Qian Taichi was embarrassed, so he tried to smooth things over. Then let's go. Huang Fuidao and the others immediately nodded. The two armies immediately merged and advanced into the distance. The heaven-seeking war drum was rumored to have accumulated countless soldier formations. There were 8 trigrams formation, 9 armies formation, white crane flaring wings formation, etc. As for the 81 war drums, after they were beaten, tens of millions of soldiers would appear. It was something that every marshal had to learn. According to the rules of the Martial God Battalion, anyone who could beat 10 war drums would be able to proudly leave the Martial God Battalion. This was a supreme honor. Today, the people from the Martial God Battalion had come to beat the war drums. Obviously, they knew that many people from the Martial God Battalion had failed, so they wanted to use this opportunity to attack the Martial God Battalion and prove that the Martial God Battalion was more powerful. The two armies quickly arrived at a canyon. The canyon was so deep that one couldn't see the bottom. From time to time, battle cries could be heard. Above the canyon, lightning flashed like snakes. Above the endless lightning, mysterious clouds drifted. One could vaguely see the war drums beating. This was the heaven-seeking war drum left behind by the predecessors. Lin Ling, if you want to leave the Martial God Battalion, you must beat the heaven-seeking war drum. However, since it's your first time here, there's no need to rush. You'll definitely succeed after some research. Huang Fuidao appeared beside Lin Ling and gave him some pointers. Lin Ling nodded. In fact, his main goal here was to beat the war drums and leave the Martial God Battalion. Dong dong dong. At the same time, the soundless sound of the war drums resounded. It was transmitted to everyone's hearts, making them feel as though they were being summoned by the war drums to prepare for battle. However, in reality, the war drums were silent. It was the momentum of the war drums that affected the army. These drums actually have souls. Lin Ling was secretly shocked. Through his eyes of time, he saw that every drum represented an army of millions. It represented a supreme military formation with an imposing aura. I'll go first. At this moment, the chess boy spoke. He was good at chess and had been here twice. Therefore, he was familiar with the heaven-seeking war drum. Go Commander Chess, go for it. Many people from the Martial God Battalion cheered immediately. They were looking forward to the chess boy beating the war drums. It's moving. At this moment, someone exclaimed. The chess boy shot into the clouds and disappeared without a trace. He was looking for the first drum. One had to know that there were 81 drums here. They were hidden very well and had to be beaten according to order. Otherwise, they would fail. The war drums weren't static. Every 15 minutes, they would undergo earth-shattering changes. He'll definitely fail. Many soldiers from the martial god battalion mocked. They were here to trample on the battlefield. Naturally, they didn't want the martial god battalion to return victorious. What nonsense are you talking about? Many people from the martial god battalion refused to be outdone. Dong dong dong. At this moment, the war drums resounded. We did it. Huang Fuidao and the others laughed when they heard the drums. The first drum was beaten. Dong dong dong. However, their surprise didn't end there. The second drum was beaten, and it was even louder this time. If these drum beats were to be played in the myriad of worlds, it would be enough to shatter a world. Especially Lin Ling's world, a single drum could cause the world to collapse. Dong dong dong. The third drum followed closely behind. Nice. The soldiers of the martial god battalion cheered. As the saying goes, one can do it in one go. The chess boy had beaten the drums 3 times in a row. Dong dong dong. However, the deafening sound resounded once more. The fourth drum was beaten. The fifth drum. At this moment, the soldiers of the martial god battalion became nervous. Were they going to fail again? They could only watch as the commander of the martial god battalion bullied them. Calm down. However, Qian Taichi waved his fan and spoke indifferently. His tone was filled with confidence. However, the feathers on his fan were sparse at this moment, and it was slightly comical. Of course, his confidence wasn't without reason. After the fifth drum, the drum beats in the clouds disappeared. In the next moment, a figure fell from the clouds and smashed into the canyon. It was the chess boy. He had clearly failed. Ka ka ka. At the same time, thousands of lightning bolts appeared, forming a huge electric net below the chess boy. If the chess boy fell again, he would definitely be in danger. Oh no! Many people shouted. However, at this moment, a sword beam shot out at lightning speed. It pierced through the chess boy's armor and stabbed him into the canyon wall, preventing him from falling any further. Furthermore, the sword had pierced through the chess boy's clothes, leaving him completely unscathed. Thank you, falling flowers flowing water sword. The chess boy wiped his sweat and looked at the side of the canyon. The one who attacked was falling flowers flowing water sword. How lucky. Qian Taichi smiled disdainfully when he saw this. He looked at the army of the martial god battalion and said, "Let me tell you, don't think you'll be fine after failing. When you fall from the clouds, the lightning will seriously injure you. The weak will be killed immediately." Chapter 2372. Taisui Charm Drum Scroll. Lord Qian Taiji, aren't you too shameless? The drum hasn't been sounded yet and you're already affecting our morale. Falling flowers flowing water immediately said. Anyone could see that Qian Taiji was trying to affect everyone's mentality. His methods were despicable. Then go ahead if you're not afraid of death. I won't stop you anyway. Qian Taiji smiled indifferently. Falling flowers flowing water didn't say anything else. He looked at Lin Ling and said, "Lord Lin Ling, the heaven-seeking war drum has a pattern. I've been here twice, so I'm familiar with it. I hope it can be of help to you." He knew that it was Lin Ling's first time here. Obviously, no first-time visitors could succeed. Therefore, he wanted to give Lin Ling some help. Go ahead. Lin Ling nodded and smiled. Lin Ling, pay more attention. Look at the changes in the clouds. It's like a formation. As long as you find the key to the formation, you'll be able to find the first drum. Of course, if your soul power reaches level 800 and shrouds the entire heaven-seeking cloud, you'll be able to reveal the heaven-seeking war drum even faster. Huang Fu Yidao also gave Lin Ling some pointers. Soul power? Lin Ling's eyes lit up. His soul power had reached level 1000. As for seeing through the heaven-seeking war drum? Although any martial arts would be blocked by the clouds, his 10,000 elephant demonic eyes could see through everything. Come on, Commander Falling Flowers Flowing Water. At this moment, cheers came from the martial god battalion. Dong dong dong. Falling Flowers Flowing Water had been here twice, so he quickly sounded the first drum. However, he was a little slow for the second drum. Compared to Chess Boy, Falling Flowers Flowing Water was obviously more cautious. Humph, as a soldier, you're so timid. It seems like you won't achieve anything great. Xian Taiji immediately commented on Falling Flowers Flowing Water's cautiousness. Instantly, many people in the martial god battalion glared at him. However, although Falling Flowers Flowing Water was cautious, it had its benefits. Unknowingly, he had sounded the fifth drum, surpassing Chess Boy. Everyone in the martial god battalion was even more excited as they clenched their fists. Dong dong dong. After a while, the sixth drum sounded. Good, looks like the Falling Flowers Flowing Water sword didn't waste 2 years. This year's results are obviously better than last year's. Many of the Grand Commanders laughed. The more they came, the more advantage they would have. However, after the sixth drum, the misty clouds became even quieter. Falling Flowers Flowing Water sword did not seem to be confident enough. In fact, this was indeed the case. The seventh drum, Falling Flowers and Flowing Water sword, was nowhere to be found. His eyes were filled with drums, and he didn't know which drum to hit. Fight! Blossoming Flowing Water sword roared. He couldn't let the God of War battalion kill him. Dong dong dong. However, in the next moment, the sound of the drums reverberated. The seventh drum shook the heavens and earth. On both sides of the canyon, everyone cried out in alarm. However, Blossoming Flowing Water sword could only bitterly smile, because the previous drum was a mistake. It could only be said that his luck was not bad. And after that, he had no clue at all. Alas! Blossoming Flowing Water sword sighed and appeared above the canyon. He had given up. If this continued, he would definitely be injured. Not bad. However, many people in the God of War battalion were still happy for him. The seventh drum was already a very good result. As for the God of War battalion, Qianteichi shook his head in disdain. Many people saw his contemptuous expression, but they didn't care about his disdainful smile. At this moment, Lin Ling's eyes flashed and he wanted to give it a try. When the Chess Boy and Blossoming Flowing Water sword saw this, they hurriedly told Lin Ling their experiences. After all, this was Lin Ling's first time here. During this process, no one hit the drums. Obviously, everyone's confidence wasn't very strong. However, just as Lin Ling was about to go out, a figure suddenly moved faster than him. Let me show you what a war drum is. A suave figure passed through everyone's eyes. It was Qianteichi. It had to be said that this time, he had completely swept away the embarrassing situation from before. He appeared to be graceful and extremely confident. However, it was undeniable that the person who proposed to hit the drums this time was Qianteichi. Therefore, he dared to come here because he had absolute confidence. In an instant, many people in the God of War battalion turned serious. The three generals also narrowed their eyes and looked at General Green Rainbow. Indeed, he revealed an unfathomable smile. And that was indeed the case. Qianteichi struck. The drums shook the sky. The deafening sound continued to resound. The first drum. The second drum. The third drum. The fourth drum. This crazy guy hit the drums 5 times in a row. He overtook the chess boy in an instant. Master Qianteichi, go for it. Go! The God of War battalion immediately became excited as if they had won the battle. Hee, the God of War battalion's heaven-seeking war drum? Even General Green Rainbow let out a satisfied sound. Of course, his voice was filled with contempt for the God of War battalion. Dong dong dong. Following this, the sixth beat of the drum could be heard. He's catching up to me. Clench. Blossoming Flowing Water Sword immediately clenched his fist. The sixth drum was coming. Was Qianteichi going to be like him? Impossible. This was Qianteichi's first time here. He couldn't possibly surpass him. Dong dong dong. However, when the drum sounded, his face turned pale. The morale of the God of War battalion also plummeted. When the seventh drum sounded, it would be the same as Blossoming Flowing Water Sword. In that case, the God of War battalion would be inferior. After all, it was Qianteichi's first time here. Qianteichi hasn't come out yet. Is he going to sound the eighth drum? Many people exclaimed in shock, finding it unbelievable. He can't possibly succeed. The chess boy and the rest clenched their fists and shook their heads. Qianteichi had already sounded the drum 7 times in a row. That was already a miracle. It was impossible for him to surpass Blossoming Flowing Water Sword. The eighth drum was very difficult to sound. It was said that once it was sounded, there would be a change in the world. Dong dong dong. However, the more they were afraid of something, the thing they were afraid of would quietly arrive. In the sky, thousands of soldiers and horses appeared, slaughtering the world. That ancient aura shook the world. The eighth drum sounded. Could it be the Taisui charm drum? Huang Fuidao and the rest had ugly expressions. They didn't believe that Qianteichi's first time here would go so smoothly. There must be something hidden. They guessed that it was the Taisui charm drum. It was an extremely ancient drum formation. It was said that the heaven-seeking war drum was set up with this formation. Therefore, if Qianteichi had studied the Taisui charm drum, then it was naturally possible for him to sound the eighth drum. Damn it! Qianteichi had indeed come prepared. Hee, the heaven-seeking war drum belongs to the God of War battalion, but our God of War battalion has sounded the eighth drum. Doesn't the God of War battalion feel embarrassed? General Qinghong took the opportunity to raise his eyebrows. Behind him, the God of War battalion was also roaring. Dong dong dong. However, just as he finished speaking, another drum sounded. An even more terrifying phenomenon appeared in the sky. Countless divine beasts stomped on the ground, destroying the world. The ninth drum sounded. Hee, so it's the ninth drum. General Qinghong immediately corrected. The God of War battalion fell into a dead silence. All the soldiers' faces were extremely pale. At the same time, a figure shot out from the clouds in front. It was Qianteichi. He didn't dare to sound the 10th drum. After all, if he failed, he would be struck by lightning. He didn't dare to take the risk. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.